is suing his ex-girlfriend, 22-year-old Shayna Correo, for vet bills and for her share of a vacation in San Diego.
Now it's case number 279 on the calendar in the matter of Duffy versus Correo. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Ladies, have a seat, please.
Mr. Duffy, this used to be your girlfriend, and you lived together for a while. You broke up, and you say that she owes you for expenses of a joint dog, including the gas to go and get it, and the vet bills, etc.
Yep.
And a vacation that you took some time ago, she was supposed to pay for half, and she never did. Miss Correo, your defense is, grow up. Get over it. It's over. Mr. Duffy, how long did you and Miss Correo live together?
About 5 or 6 months.
Did you move into her apartment? She moved into your apartment?
She moved into my house with me and my mother.
How long had you known her before she moved in?
We were dating about 2 months prior to that.
Why did you move into his mother's house?
Just to be together. We were supposed to move upstairs to our own apartment.
But you never did?
Briefly, but not for long.
Now, you moved in what month?
The end of March.
And when did you have this burning desire to get a pet together?
I would have to say the end of that month.
Why?
I've always wanted one. She had always wanted one. I figured it'd be good to go into it together.
So you went and bought this boxer puppy, and you had to travel to get it.
Yep.
How much did it cost?
It was about $200 in gas to get to Pennsylvania and back.
I didn't ask you how much the gas was. I asked you how much the pet was.
Oh, sorry, $550.
And then there were vet bills.
Correct.
How much were the vet bills?
I have $796 on my credit card.
And who took the dog when you split up?
I did.
Shayna did.
Do you want the dog back?
No.
You're perfectly happy with her having the dog.
Well, it's been there for a while now.
So you're perfectly
so
happy
it's
with that?
comfortable there, yeah.
Good. Under what theory, Mr. Duffy, under what theory do you think a court is going to give you the vet bills back?
Well, I don't have the dog anymore. She took the dog without even attempting to ask me if I wanted it, so I had no choice. She just took the dog. I have all this money invested into the dog and vet bills, and I have no dog to
Well,
show
when
for
you
it.
weren't getting along, according to what I read in the complaint and the answer, she said, I'm going to my mother's house to cool off for the weekend.
Right.
She left you a note. She took the dog with her. And you decided you had had enough of her, period, so you told her not to bother to come back.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah,
right?
I ended the relationship.
Now, when you called her and told her, you emailed her, how did you get the message across to her to tell her that you didn't want her to come back?
It was text messaging over the phone, which is not the way I wanted it done.
Just a minute. You mean text messaging each
Yeah.
other back and forth. So you said to her, don't bother to come back.
Well, she asked me what I wanted to do. I said, I don't see this going anywhere.
I'll get to you in a minute. So now you say, I don't see this going anywhere. Don't bother to come back.
Right.
Did you say, bring my dog back?
That wasn't...
Did you
No,
say,
not at that
bring my
time.
dog back?
No.
When did you say, where's my dog?
About a week later.
Well, what did you think was going to happen to the dog in the 2 weeks now that it's been with defendant?
I tried to talk to her about what was going to happen because she still owed me the money for the vacation. We didn't know what was going on with the dog. She refused to talk to me and told me that I needed to speak to her mother about any problems I had.
Did you?
Yes. And her mother told me that I had to bring her to court to settle any problems.
All right, now, Mr. Duffy, let me take care of the first part of your problem. Let's take care of the dog.
All right.
You get nothing for the dog.
Okay.
You lived together, you played house together, you bought this puppy together. That's what sometimes young, stupid people do. They say, well, we're not going to have a child together right now. We're going to get a pet together. Foolishness. There was no agreement. There was no contract. There was no
Right.
contract with the defendant whatsoever.
Correct.
That should you separate, she was going to keep the dog, but she would reimburse you for the vet bills. That's contract.
Right. Well, I never had a choice to even have
Oh,
an
certainly you
option
had
to keep the dog.
Certainly you had a
Because I
choice,
was at
sir.
work.
You didn't want the dog. If, when you text messaged her for the first time, you said, don't bother to come home, but by the way, I paid for the vet bills for the dog, I paid for the gas to get there to purchase the dog, and I think it's only fair that I should have the dog back.
Right.
And she says, no, I want the dog. And you say, well, then let's amicably come up with a resolution with regard to that. That's one thing. But you didn't mention the dog at all.
Okay.
You know, that's sort of an afterthought. In any event, you had no contract. There is no contract or
Right.
theory under which I find that the law is going to help you get these vet bills paid. You know, It would really be no different if you purchased a car together, stupidly, in joint names, and the car needed repairs, and you paid for the repairs, and then you broke up, and she took the car. Well, we purchased the car jointly, you know, so we're each going to get half the money, but I put in all the money to fix the car. There has to be some theory under which you're going to get that back, other than just juvenile stupidity. Okay. So far, you didn't say much. So far, you're a winner, right?
Correct.
You have the dog. You're taking care of the dog?
Correct.
Good. Now, let's get to the vacation. When did you take the vacation?
The vacation we took in the middle to the end of March.
May.
March 2000.
May.
May. Where did you go?
To San Diego.
Where were you working at the time, Mr. Dufty?
I was currently unemployed. I'd been laid off. I had another job lined up to
So you were unemployed. And where were you working?
At a daycare in
How much did you earn?
$250 a week.
Why are you asking me? I don't work there.
$250.
Okay, so you were unemployed, you decided to take a vacation. That's always a good thing when you're unemployed, to take a vacation. It clears your head, right? Good. Where were you going?
We went to San Diego to visit my family.
How long were you there?
12 days.
Who did you stay with?
My cousin and my uncle.
In their house.
Correct.
So let me hear the story, Mr. Dufty.
In the end of May, my cell phone contract was ending, so I was getting a new cell phone. She, at the time, needed to buy a new cell phone, so...
No, I didn't.
So I decided that we'll get a cell phone contract together, we'll save money renewing a contract on buying her a new phone. At the same time, we were planning the vacation. She didn't have the money or amounts on credit cards to pay for the vacation. So I decided and made a deal with her that I will pay for the vacation if you pay for the cell phone bills until the amount equals up. And then when we ended the relationship...
There was no contract.
Just a second. I want you to be quiet and not interrupt him again.
And then when I ended the relationship, she canceled my cell phone and stopped paying everything.
Had she paid the cell phone between May and September?
She paid it for 5 months.
Did you pay for the cell phone bill for 5 months?
6 months.
Why?
Because it was on my contract, under my name, and
Was
it was
any
just
extra
easier.
for him?
Yes.
How much?
It was probably like $60 to $70 more a month.
What bills did Mr. Dufty pay for you?
No bills. He paid for the vacation, but there was no contract in saying that I would pay him back for the vacation.
How come you didn't pay for anything when you went?
Because
Look at me, don't look down there. How come you didn't pay for anything?
I didn't have the money to pay for a vacation like that.
Did you tell him that?
Yes.
What did he say?
He said he'd take care of it.
Excuse me, can I say something?
Sure. Stand up when you say something.
Yep.
You're his mother.
Okay. After she moved out, she said that it was an agreement between the two of them that he would pay for the trip to California and she would continue to pay the cell phone bill. That was an agreement they had made.
Who did she say that to?
She said it to me.
When?
It was a week after that she had moved out of the house when she came to get her meal. And she told me that he dumped her and she was not going to pay the cell phone bill anymore.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
There's no reason for me to pay for his cell phone, especially if he's going to threaten me.
Why did he threaten you if you didn't pay for it for 10 months?
And later today,
3 weeks after he purchases this car, he doesn't have a car and he doesn't have his girlfriend. How do you think he feels?
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Jonathan Dufty claims ex-girlfriend Shayna Correo owes for vet bills on a dog she kept after their breakup. Jonathan also says Shayna owes for half the cost of a vacation in San Diego.
Did you have a conversation with his mother about the vacation when you came to pick up your mail?
I did have a conversation with the cell phone because she had asked me why I shut off the cell phone.
And what did you say to her?
I said I shut it off because we are no longer a couple and there is no reason for me to pay for his cell phone, and especially if he's going to threaten me that I have to pay for it for 10 months so he can rack up my bill and then I have bad credit because I can't pay for that.
Why did he threaten you if you didn't pay for it for 10 months?
Because he said that if I didn't give him money for the vacation, then he's not going down to Verizon to get on his own contract, and he said that I should pay for 10 months worth of more cell phone bills to add up to the vacation that I owed him.
So what you're telling me is that you did not have an agreement before.
We never had an agreement.
But afterwards he said you pay for half the vacation or pay for my phone.
Right.
I believe that. I believe it, Mr.
Excuse me.
Dufty. And I believe her when she said that her defense to this case is you got to grow up and you got to move on.
Your Honor?
No, listen to me. Listen to me. You went to San Diego to, according to you, visit your relatives. You stayed there. She was earning $250 a week. The likelihood of her spending $1,500 on a vacation is de minimis.
It wasn't 1,500, it was 1,200.
$1,200 on a vacation.
But I was unemployed at the time.
Is de minimis. Living with your moms.
Right.
Your case is dismissed, Mr. Dufty. You don't have a contract with her. You never had a contract with her. And the fact that it's over doesn't make it a contract.
It was an agreement before the relationship was ended.
I don't believe you.
Okay.
Thank you. That's all.
You may step out.
He was really out for money.
She was looking for a free ride.
I think he made up pretty good.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Gorman versus Loving. Step forward.
45-year-old Vincent Gorman is suing his ex-girlfriend, 25-year-old Courtney Loving, for the cost of a Lincoln Town Car. Courtney claims the car was a gift from Vincent.
Mr. Gorman, it is your claim that Miss Loving, who was a girlfriend of yours, owes you for a used car that you purchased for her. Miss Loving says it was a gift. So there are certain things that I think we can agree upon, Miss Loving, so I'm going to turn to you. First, we can agree on the fact that you and Mr. Gorman were in a relationship for a brief period of time, having met in June of 2006. Is that correct?
Yes.
This car was purchased in July of 2006. Is that correct, Mr. Gorman?
Yes.
And you decided you had had enough of Mr. Gorman at the end of July of 2006. Is that correct?
August.
At the end of August or the beginning of August?
Like the middle of August, our relationship
Middle
ended.
of August. You decided you had enough of him. And what you got out of this brief 8-week relationship is a car. So far, am I correct? Are those the facts?
Yes, those are the facts.
Facts. Simple, right?
Yes.
So I'd like you to tell me, how old are you?
25 years old.
Who do you live with? Is over here, looking someplace else. Try looking here and tell me who you live with. It's a simple question. If I asked anybody out there, I say, who do you live with? They would say, my wife, my children, my husband. Don't look up at the sky. Who do you live with?
My 2 children and my mother.
How did you get to work when you met him in June of 2006?
I had my own car.
So you didn't need a car?
Yes, which I expressed to Mr. Gorman.
Oh, just a minute. So you didn't need a car?
No.
Does your mother have a car?
No, she did not.
So there was one car for the entire family?
Yes.
So it would have been nice to have 2 cars.
Yes.
How old are you, Mr. Gorman?
45.
25, 45. It's getting to be a stretch. You do understand that?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you want to tell me, sir, how it came about that this car was purchased and when it was purchased in July of 2006?
It was purchased July the 22nd, 2006.
Tell me how it came about, Mr. Gorman.
We was riding down the street
In whose car?
in my car. And she said, oh, baby, look, there's a Lincoln for sale. I said, okay, let's stop and see what he wants for it. So we stopped and we checked it out, and he offered the good price. So she said, well, you know, I really like that car. I said, well, do you have money for this car? She said, no, but I will have some money. She said, around about 30 days, I can give you some money if you purchase this car for me. So I said, how much? She said, I give you $1,000 in 30 days, and then $150.
Did she say where she was getting the $1,000 from?
She said that she was finna start working 12 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Okay.
So I gave her the money for the car.
Did you write her a check?
No, I paid cash.
Let me see the bill of sale.
Right here, yeah.
Well, this is an application for Michigan title and registration.
Yes, Your Honor.
This is what you used to register the car, Miss Loving?
Yes, I switched from my own car to the new car.
What'd you do with the old car?
I gave it to my mother.
How did I know that? Now, that happened on July the 22nd. When did you decide that you were no longer interested in Mr. Gorman?
When I was a half an hour late from work, on my way on the freeway home, I did not hear my phone ringing. I had the music loud on the freeway. So I seen my phone light up. I answered my phone. He said, why haven't you answered the phone? I've been calling you for a half hour. And I said, well, I didn't hear my phone ringing. He was like, where are you at? I said, I'm on the freeway on Gratiot. He said that he had already, picked up the kids from school and that he was at Kmart. And I said, so what did you get from Kmart? I said, or did you go looking for me? And he said, yes, I did. I said, so you have my children with you and you were looking for me because I haven't answered my phone in a half an hour? And he said, yes. So we stayed on the phone the whole trip to the house. Basically, I could hear the echo of the kitchen on the phone, and he was lying, like making up this whole elaborate thing about him out looking for me. So I said, I'm on the phone with him still. I said, I need a cigarette. So I go to the gas station, which is 2 blocks from the home that we were living in, which was Mr. Gorman's property.
Just a minute. So you were living with him?
Yes, I moved out of my house month because it was my apartment.
When did you move in with him?
At the beginning of August.
With your 2 children?
Yes. I had moved in with him for about a month. Mr. Gorman pressed that I get another car. And I'm like, well, you know what I'm saying, I don't really need another car. I got my Reba, which is what I call my car. So he said that if he gonna be driving the Lincoln, he wanted his girl to be driving in the Lincoln. He wanted it to be nice. You know, just look nice driving a car. When I go somewhere with him, he wants, you know, me to look nice. So we were driving down the street and we had been looking for cars that weekend. And he said, oh, baby, they're going Lincoln. Oh, and they only want $3,400 for it. So we turn around and he was like, you like that? I said, yeah, you know, it's nice. You know, but I was just still kind of adamant because I didn't really want a new car. So we took it for a test drive and everything. We went to the bank on Saturday morning. He went and withdrew the money to purchase the car. There was no agreement saying that I was going to pay him anything back. Even on the night when we broke up, I said, so what do you want to do about the car and the phone? He said, well, I'm not a petty person. I know you need the car to get back and forth to work. He said that you won't have any problems unless I see another man driving the car, which I know my allegations were right. Because he was always accusing me of lying. Like I said, I was a half hour late getting home from work. He drew up this elaborate story. You know, I got back to the house. He said,
it's enough. When did he come to collect his first payment on the car?
He never came to collect a payment. There was no agreement for a payment.
You said that you went to collect a payment, Mr. Gorman. When was that?
That was on the 21st of August.
Tell me what happened.
I went, I rung her doorbell. She did not respond, so I knocked on the window. She still didn't respond. So I went over there to the car, and I went to put my key in the car, and my key wouldn't work.
Had the lock changed on the car?
Yes, after he came to my house banging on my doors and windows, and I knew that after he got my cell phone cut off the next day after we broke up, that he was going to come from my car. I was going to come home from work, and my car would not be there. So I didn't trust him after he got my cell phone cut off, knowing that my daughter has asthma.
Miss Loving, do you think that Mr. Gorman feels like a fool?
I don't know how he feels.
Well, how would you... Let me ask you a question, madam. Do your 2 children have the same father?
No, they do not.
Let's say father of child number 1 came back into your life, but he said, listen, I've got to clean up some old debts. So what I'd like you to do is, could you please take an advance on your salary or go and take out a loan because I'm having some difficulty. And you go and take out that loan for him. And 2 days later, he's gone. How would you feel?
Upset. That is happening.
Like a fool, right? So now you have a car and your mother has a car. And 3 weeks after he purchases this car, he doesn't have a car and he doesn't have his girlfriend. How do you think he feels?
He probably felt upset.
Like a fool.
I asked him the
Well,
night we
and
broke
when you
up,
said to him,
what do you
when
want?
you said to him, what do you want to do about the car?
And the cell phone.
No, forget cell phone. Bird, you see where it says signature of seller? That's where she's going to sign it. Right now. That's where she's going to sign it. Right now. Because he made a mistake with you, Miss Loving.
No, he didn't.
Sign it now. Right where it says seller. Because a couple of months ago, you said, what do you want to do about the car, if I believe you? And he said, I'm not a petty person. All of a sudden, he's become a petty person. Now he wants the car back. Now you can give it to Mr. Gorman. He has his car back. Thank you very much. Goodbye and good luck.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Pamela Marr is suing her ex-husband's girlfriend, Mary Palmucci, for the return of money paid for a '97 Chevy Cavalier. Pamela claims Mary illegally titled the vehicle in her name.
Order. All rise. Now, this is case number 290 on the calendar in the matter of Marr versus Palmucci.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat.
Miss Marr, Miss Palmucci is the girlfriend of your ex-husband.
Yes.
Ex-husband?
Yep. Yes.
Better. According to your complaint, you and your ex-husband got together and decided to purchase a used car for your daughter.
Yes, Ashley.
And each of you was going to contribute $400 to the car.
Yes.
According to you, you gave your husband $400 to buy this car. The car somehow was registered in the name of Miss Palmucci.
Yes.
Your daughter drove the car for a period of time, and then, for whatever reason, Miss Palmucci took the car back.
Yes.
You want your $400 back.
Correct.
Miss Palmucci said it was always her car. Step up, sir. What's your last name?
Marr?
How long have you and your former wife been divorced?
About 4 or 5 years now.
And how long have you and Ms. Palmucci been together?
About 7 years.
So I assume you and your wife were separated for a long time before you divorced.
Yes.
How old was your daughter when you left the house?
Like 13, 12, 13, like that.
How old?
10.
10.
They're not always good with dates. Whose idea was it to get this used car for your daughter?
It was my idea.
Where did you find the car?
My niece had it. She was selling the car.
Did your wife, former wife, give you $400 towards the car? Look at me.
It was my understanding that check that she gave me was for the work I did for her at her house a week prior to that. And I gave $200.
How much was the car?
The car altogether was $700.
Did you have a conversation with your former wife with regard to her contributing to the car?
The only conversation that we had was with my daughter and myself and Mary about the car. There was no verbal conversation about the car between me and my ex-wife.
Did you have a conversation with your father about the car?
Yes.
Step up. Tell me your first name.
Ashley.
Ashley, tell me about when you had this conversation with your father about the car.
Well, I was at work and he called and asked me if I wanted to discuss with my mother about getting the car from my cousin.
Well, what specifically did he say?
He said, do you think your mother would go half in buying a car for you? I said, yeah, she would. So I went home and talked to my mother about it, and she said, yeah, that's a good idea.
Did your father tell you how much the car was?
Yes.
How much did he say it was?
$700.
And did you tell your mother how much it was?
Yes.
Who did you give the money to?
My ex-husband.
When?
I gave it to him on July 28th.
Did you give it to him in check or cash?
Check.
How much did you give him?
$400.
Why did you give him $400?
Because I was told that the car was $800, and later on, after I had paid it, my daughter had said it was only $700.
Did you originally tell your mother it was $800?
I think I might have.
What date did you get the car?
July 31st.
July 30th.
And when was the car taken back from you?
It's August 21st.
Mr. Marr, you did have a discussion with your daughter about her mother going half for the car. Unless you're calling your daughter a liar. Are you calling your daughter a liar?
Me and Ashley discussed it. We didn't discuss anything with my ex-wife.
Are you telling me that you didn't say to your daughter you think your mom would go half with me on a used car for you?
No, it didn't take place, that conversation.
Really?
Yep.
Tell me the work that you did for your ex-wife that you thought she was paying you for.
I put a liner in the pool and a skimmer also.
Did you arrive at a price with her?
No, it wasn't. We didn't compromise the price.
Well, how much did you spend for the liner?
I didn't spend for anything. She bought the liner and I put it in. I installed it and the skimmer.
How long did it take you?
Half a day, about 4 or 5 hours.
So what you're telling me, Mr. Marr, is you want me to believe, sir, that you thought that this $400 was your labor in putting in the half a day?
Yeah, that I paid my brother-in-law with the other $200. Exactly.
Really?
Yeah.
Even though you had not come up with an amount with your wife for what the job was going to be?
No, since she doesn't make that much money, I was just happy with whatever she gave me, that's all.
Mr. Marr, you're full of baloney, sir. Absolutely, positively, 100% full of baloney. If something doesn't make sense in this world, Mr. Marr, it's not true. If something makes sense, it's usually true. What makes sense is you having a discussion with your daughter and saying you think your mom would go half with me on a car for you, and giving her an inflated amount of $800 because that would have covered the tags and the registration, whatever it was to get it on the road. And she going to her mother and saying, would you do that? And her mother said, sure. And her mother hands you a check for $400. You don't even ask what it's for. You ask, don't know. It's for the swimming pool. It's for the liner. It's for the work. It's for the, I don't know what this is for. Thank you very much for the check. Then you register the car in your girlfriend's name. What happens to her $400 when you take back the car?
I didn't register the car.
She registered the car.
Right, because I wrote out the check for the $700, which I have, and I paid for everything else, including the insurance.
Then you got it, Miss Palmucci. He scammed you out of $400.
Who scammed me out of $400?
He did.
Really?
Yeah, he did.
Okay.
Because he got paid $400. So if you wrote out the entire check of $700 plus putting tags and registration on the car, then your boyfriend scammed you out of $400 because he got half of it from his ex-wife, which was supposed to pay
either
for
way,
the car.
the money comes out of a joint checking account, which him and I have, so he didn't scam me out of anything, so that's also where the check is deposited.
Yeah.
Into the account that we both have.
Let me see everything, please. I want to see all the paperwork, please. Going to resolve this right away.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
These two people decided to buy her a car. He's afraid to tell you that.
The conversation
I'm
between
speaking,
him...
Try not to speak over me. You will not be successful.
And later today,
Things need to be paid. She offers to pay for those things. I wasn't going to say no.
Why not?
Somebody offers me money. Who am I to say no?
A creep.
Pamela Marr claims her ex-husband's girlfriend, Mary Palmucci, illegally titled a Chevy Cavalier in her name. Pamela says the car was supposed to be a gift to her daughter, Ashley.
Why is the certificate of title all mangled?
Because she attempted to take it from my house and tore it in doing that.
Where's the car now?
In my driveway.
Who drives it?
Nobody right now.
Why not?
It's not registered and insured.
Does it still drive?
Yeah, it
Yeah,
still
there's
drives.
nothing wrong with it.
Oh, good. You want to give him $350 for this car?
Sure.
Hmm?
Yes.
Good, because that's all they paid for. They said they paid
In addition to the
$700.
insurance, the registration, the title, the amount that I had to have it towed in order to get the vehicle back.
Shouldn't have done that, because
Well,
you didn't get
the
the
only
whole
other
story.
choice that I was given by the police department
Listen
was
to
that I
me.
should file
You
a
didn't
complaint
get the
of
whole
theft.
story, madam. The whole story was these two people have a child together. They decided to buy her a car. He's afraid to tell you that.
The conversation
I'm
between
speaking.
him-
Try not to speak over me. You will not be successful. You got yourself in the middle of it, and you shouldn't have. But she's going to give you $350. You get the other $400 from him, because that's what she paid him for the car, and you're going to sign over the title to her right now.
I can't sign the title until after the other case goes to court.
What other case?
There's another case that's going to court on the 14th of November.
For what?
Her claim against him for assault.
Her claim against him for
Yes,
assault.
here's the paperwork. You want to see that
Can I
too?
see it, please? This has nothing to do with the title to the car.
It does. It's in there. It says that she went there and that she attempted to get the title to the car.
That's,
It's in
I
one of the papers
gotcha.
there.
I gotcha. We'll give you a copy of this tape. You take it, you show it, and you indicate to the judge who hears that case, if a judge is going to hear that case, that you were directed to, and you have agreed and acknowledged to follow my direction. You're going to sign this over to her, and she's going to give you $350. Bird, have her sign it right now. You created a whole lot of trouble, Mr. Marr, by not being honest with the women in your life. Sign it.
Tell her sign here.
You have now purchased the car yourself. Do you understand?
Yes.
She gets $350. Now she's whole because she's going to take his $400 because they have a joint bank account. You got it?
Yes.
Very good. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
He's ruined a good relationship he had with his 3 daughters. He has no relationship with them now. It's just really, really sad that he would do this to his own daughters.
She'd rather go the avenue of making up lies and causing a problem between people. That's the results that she gets.
It's his fault. He ruined everything with me and my sisters, and there's going to be nothing more.
They want to continue to cause friction. That's their loss.
There's going to be no friction.
He's been causing friction for years.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Price versus Emerson. Step forward.
Peggy Price is suing her ex-boyfriend, Corey Emerson, for loans to pay rent, fix his bike, and travel to his brother's wedding. Corey says the money she gave him was never a loan.
Miss Price, Mr. Emerson was your boyfriend for a brief period of time, and according to your complaint, you made a series of loans to him. You want your money back because he broke off the relationship. He says that he did break off the relationship. Any money that you gave him during the relationship were gifts because you cared for him. He needed the money. That's what people do who care for each other. They help each other out. And the only time it became a loan was when he broke up with you. Is that your defense, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
How old are you, Mr. Emerson?
30 years old.
Ever been married?
Yes, ma'am.
How many times?
Just once.
When and for how long?
I was married when I was 20 for 9 years.
You have children?
2.
How old are your children?
9 and 10.
Do you see them?
Almost every day.
So you're a good father.
I try to be, ma'am.
What kind of work do you do, Mr. Emerson?
I work for the railroad.
And how long have you worked for the railroad?
6.5 years.
Pay child support?
Yes, ma'am.
What about you, Miss Price? How old are you?
32.
Ever been married?
Yes.
When and for how long?
2000 until 2005.
Have any children?
2.
How old are they?
5 and 13.
Do you work?
I do.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm self-employed hairstylist.
Children see their father?
Yes.
Do you pay child support?
He's disabled, so they get Social Security.
And your former wife, sir, what does she do?
She has an in-home daycare.
So it would be a fair statement, Mr. Emerson, to say that both of these families are sort of struggling to make ends meet financially. That be a fair statement?
I wouldn't say that I'm struggling, nor would I say she's struggling at all.
Really?
That's correct.
You think there's plenty of money to go around?
I do.
Then why would you take money from her, Mr. Emerson?
I didn't take any money.
No, listen to me, sir.
Oh.
You did take money from her. Whether it's a gift or a loan, you did take money from her, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So, if these two families are in pretty much similar circumstance, why would you take money from her?
Things come up, things need to be paid. She offers to pay for those things. I wasn't going to say no.
Why not? Is my question. Why not? Would not a person with a certain moral compass say, listen, you're a working gal, you got 2 little children, I'm a working guy, I got 2 little children.
Somebody offers me money, who am I to say no?
A creep. That's who you are. Because whether I determine this was a gift or a loan, you're a creep. You're not talking about somebody who's got plenty of extra cash and says to somebody that she cares about, listen, I got a lot of extra cash. You need something, I'll help you with it. You were pretty well aware of the fact, if you were dating for a while, that she's a hard-working gal who comes home from work, takes care of her kids, does the cooking, whatever, does everything that has to be done. And you, on the other hand, who see your children every day, which is really very nice, probably have much less responsibility with regard to doing their laundry, with regard to taking them to their appointments, with regard to doing the general stuff, what I call the grunt work, because your children do live with their mother, don't they?
Yes, ma'am.
So now we're going to decide whether you are a creep that took the money because it was a loan or a creep that took the money because it was a gift. Either way, I don't approve of your behavior. Now, when did you start dating Mr. Emerson?
The second week of May 2006.
Tell me when and under what circumstances he asked you for the first amount of money.
He wrecked his bike, the fork broke. He said that he didn't have the money to pay for it. Sent me a text message, can you do me a huge favor? That's how all of them start.
Could you do me a huge favor?
Yeah.
Go ahead. What did it say?
I need money to pay for the fork for my bike.
Okay.
So I said under the condition that he make payments, whatever, eventually it's got to be paid back.
When did you tell him eventually he has to be paid back?
I didn't set a date. I just said, whenever you can pay me back.
Okay, so and how much was that for?
This check was for $409.81.
Okay, next.
Then he was having problems. He didn't have enough money to pay his rent. So
how did you find out about that?
He sent me a text message again asking him to help him pay his rent. And I said, how much is it? And he said it was $640 with late fees. I said, how much do you have? He said he had like $400 in the bank. And I said, I can help you out, but once again, it's, we're adding this on. So I wrote a check for $640, but he gave me $403 of it.
Go ahead.
Then he had to get home. His brother's wedding was like a month before.
He had to go to a wedding?
To Montana. And, we talked about it, and I'm like, I can help you out if you want me to, whatever, I can help you out.
I don't want whatever. You're in court now, Miss Price. You have to be specific about what you said to him and what he said to you, and I want you to trust me on this. I know what you're making up, and I know what you're not making up.
Right.
Do you understand?
Right.
So a month later, he had a wedding?
Yes.
Where were you when he asked you for the money for the trip?
We were at a bar.
And what did he say to you?
He just said that he didn't have the money to get there. Could I help him out?
And what did you say?
I said, I can do what I can, but...
And how much was that?
The plane ticket was $346.60, and the Greyhound bus that I put him on, because I waited till the last minute to get the plane ticket, and it was going to be $900. So I wasn't going to do that. I didn't have the money to do that, and he knew that. So I sent him on a Greyhound, and that was $159.
Okay, and that's it?
Yes.
And what date was that?
He left on the 1st of August and returned on the 8th.
And when did you and Mr. Emerson stop seeing each other?
He came in on the 11th, which was a Friday, at about noon.
To your salon?
My work, yes. I proceeded to give him and his son a haircut at no charge, thinking everything was okay, because we'd had no problems up till then. And I got a text message 6 hours later from him saying that we needed a break, and, this wasn't working, it was moving too fast, and... So we went back and forth through text messages, and I said, I have the right to know why you're feeling this way. I've done everything in the relationship I've given.
And he said?
He said, since you're giving me an ultimatum, it's over.
Okay, now, Mr. Emerson, it's your turn. June. June!
June, the mountain bike. I wrecked my mountain bike. It was going to cost about $400 to fix it. I had talked with Peggy about the price, and she offered to pay for it.
What would you talk to her about the price for?
Well, we're in a relationship. We talked about, I talked about wrecking my mountain bike and, what it was going to be to fix it. And
why would you tell her that? Why don't you tell your ex-wife that?
Actually, I did tell my ex-wife that.
Did she give you any money?
No.
You have living parents?
Yes.
Well, your mother loves you for a longer time than the plaintiff did. Why don't you call your mother and say, I broke my spoke?
I didn't need to. The plaintiff had already offered to pay for it.
She wouldn't need to have offered to have paid for it, Mr. Emerson, if you didn't have a problem. And you wouldn't have had a problem if you called your mother or your father or your brother or your sister and said, could you loan me some money? Then you wouldn't have even had to mention it to her.
It wasn't a loan. She just offered to pay for it, ma'am.
Well, what about Mr. Emerson? You need not do that. I only know you 8 weeks. And I wouldn't think of taking any money from you because I have a mother who gave birth to me. I have an ex-wife who I support along with my 2 children. I have a brother, sister, father, you know, who I've known a long time. I wouldn't think of taking money from you. How about that?
Didn't even cross my mind.
Nah, that's because you're a creep. Mr. Emerson, you want to tell me what cathartic event happened between the 1st of August when you went home to your brother's wedding and the 11th of August when you had your haircut and your son's haircut for free at Miss Price's salon that caused you to send her a text message that said, we need a break?
It had been leading up to that.
I want you to tell me the cathartic event between August 1st when you left on a plane ticket that she purchased for you and when you came back on a Greyhound bus ticket that she had purchased for you that caused you to say, we need a break.
Okay, it was...
Follow my train of thought, sir.
It was big deal was the plane ticket. She tells you she's going to do something and she'll play along with the story. I'm going to do this. I've got it taken care of. Don't worry. I'll do it.
Just a second. Just a second. Let's get rid of the gobbledygook, sir. What you're complaining about is
the fact that she does not follow through.
Listen, what you're saying is she sent you home by bus instead of plane. Is that what you're telling me?
That was one of the problems, yes.
Oh, very good. Major creep. Major creep. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,154. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Old Terrell Taggart is suing her ex-fiancé, 25-year-old Travis Miller, for false allegations of assault, money stolen from their joint bank account, and the cost of a wedding that never happened.
Yeah, this is case number 277 on the calendar in the matter of Taggart versus Miller.
Thank you, Bert.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in, Your Honor, and may be seated. Folks, have a seat.
Miss Taggart, you and Mr. Miller were engaged to be
Yes, ma'am.
married. You have a child from a previous relationship.
Yes, I do.
And the 3 of you live together.
Yes.
There came a time when that engagement and that relationship terminated. You were in the process of planning a wedding, and it is your claim that Mr. Miller owes you for a whole host of things. First, false allegations that he made with regard to an incident where he claimed that you bit him and assaulted him, emptying out a bank account that was yours, not giving you property back that belonged to you, and wedding expenses that you paid for. Mr. Miller says he doesn't owe you a dime. He also paid for wedding expenses. He says that the allegations of assault were absolutely true. He doesn't have any property that belongs to you anymore, and he really wants you to move on with your life because he says that his life has been made unbearable by you and your family, who have embarked on a constant course of harassment, including filing of multiple lawsuits.
Yes,
so
Your Honor.
far, is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, when did this blissful relationship commence?
We got engaged on September 16th of 2005.
Were you living together at the time?
We didn't move in together until the next month.
You moved in together in whose home?
We rented an apartment together, and we both signed the lease.
And when was this argument that terminated the relationship?
The argument happened on May 10th, which was 10 days before the wedding was supposed to happen.
Is that when the assault allegedly took place, sir?
Approximately, Your Honor.
Not approximately.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. You want to tell me what happened, Miss Taggart?
Yes, ma'am. I had gone to Morgan, where all of the wedding arrangements were to take place, to finalize the cake and the
Flowers.
And the flowers. I called him at work and told him I was going to be going, and he didn't want me to go.
Why didn't you want her to go?
Well, because, Your Honor, I wanted to participate in the, the formalizing of this wedding.
Then he told you that?
No, he did not tell me that.
What did he tell you?
He just told me that he didn't want me to go, and previously he'd told me that he didn't want anything to do with planning it, that it was my wedding and I was in charge of planning it.
Okay, go ahead.
So I went to Morgan anyway. He'd called me several times and was very upset. And,
well, what did he say to you when he called?
He would just yell at me. He was mad at me because I talked to my mother about how he was upset with me. He didn't want me to even talk to my mother about it.
Miss Taggart, I'm not getting a full picture. After you spoke to him on the phone and he was upset with you, did you call your mother?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Why did you call your mother?
I called my mother because when I talked to him on the phone, I was very upset, and I just wanted to call and mostly have somebody just help me calm down so that I wasn't so upset. I was going to finalize wedding plans, and I didn't want to have tears running down my face when I was doing it.
Go ahead.
I finalized the wedding plans, and I called him when I was on my way home, as he'd asked, and he said, well, we'll just talk when you get home. And so I got home, and my son was asleep, and so I took him to bed in our bedroom.
How old is your son?
He's 7 now. He was 6 at the time.
If he was sleeping, where was he sleeping?
He was asleep in the car on the way home.
So you went to finalize the wedding plans with your son?
Yes.
And when you got home, you put your son to bed in your bedroom?
Yes.
Is that where he usually sleeps?
Yes, he had a bed in the front room, but he'd often come and slept in our bed.
That's not an answer, Miss Tackett. 7 years old, they're supposed to sleep in their own room if they have a room. When he slept in your room, where did he sleep?
He would just sleep in the bed. I laid him in there because I knew that Travis and I were going to be having a conversation and I didn't want it to wake him. So I put him to sleep in our bed. And Travis was standing by the bathroom door when I got home. He gave me a hug, and I went and I sat on the couch in our front room. And a few minutes later, he came and he sat down in the chair across from me. And he started asking me questions and something about like $1,600 missing from the bank account. And I told him it was just all finalizing wedding plans.
Did you have a joint checking account?
We did. He was put on the checking account 2 months prior to this.
And you were working at the time?
Yes.
Who were you working for?
I was working for the Huntsman Cancer Hospital.
And you?
Yes, I'm employed for the state of Utah for JGS, Juvenile Justice Services.
Okay. So you were each depositing your checks in the bank?
Yes,
in this joint bank account? Okay, go ahead.
And so it started to get heated. He started yelling at me about all sorts of things. I remember I was holding a pillow sitting on the couch, and he stood over me, shaking his finger at me, telling me that I was weak and I was worthless, and he couldn't even believe he was attracted to me. And then he asked me to leave, and I was okay with that. At the time, I was fed up with the fight. I was ready to be done with the fight. And so I said, okay, I'll leave. And I went to go back to the bedroom to get my son. And Travis had been drinking prior in the evening. And Travis said, you're not taking him with you. And I said, he's my son, and he's going with me. And I tried to get past Travis to go get my son, and he pushed me. And he did this repetitively. He pushed me into the wall, into the kitchen table, into the couch, down on the bed, down on the floor. And I did the pushing and shoving match for a minute, and then I said, you know what, I'm just going to call the cops. I grabbed my cell phone, and I started to dial 911, and he grabbed my phone, and he threw it across the house. After that, I went out, and I was kind of freaked out. I stood there for a second, and I decided that I had to get my son. And so I started to get violent with him. I did bite him on the upper left chest. I believe I bit him on the right forearm. I punched him, I kicked him. I was doing everything I could to get my son out of that house.
Why didn't you just go outside and call the police?
A moment of confusion.
Okay.
And so I started to get violent with him. And he said, you're not taking him, he's my son. And I said, you're not to him. And Travis then began to cry. He sat on the floor, and I tried to get past him again to get my son. He then grabbed my legs and threw me to the ground. When I got up again, I started punching him in the top of the head. And I finally got past him. Well, he ran into the bedroom following me. And then when I realized the fight had escalated and, we were now in the bedroom, I didn't want my son to wake up. And so I laid on top of his ears. I covered his ears so that he wouldn't wake up.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You don't bite him and kick him and scratch him and punch him and then go inside and put your hands over your son's sleeping ears so that he won't be awakened. That's stupid. You agree with that, don't you?
No, ma'am.
Well, then that's your problem.
And later today,
You have to go, find your center.
I've been trying to find a lot
your
of my
center
center.
and say, it's over.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Terrell Taggart claims ex-fiancé Travis Miller owes for false allegations of assault, money taken from a joint bank account, and his share of wedding expenses.
All right, Mr. Miller, you want to tell me, please, your version of what happened on the night of May 10th?
Yes, Your Honor. While Ms. Taggart is emotional, the events that transpired. Yes, I'll take it. I'd gotten off work around 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I wasn't drunk. I called to pay my cell phone bill, our cell phone bill, over the phone. And I knew from the day before, because she told me she would like to go do some wedding things, and I asked her, you know, can I go with you? I don't go alone. I said, I got up at 4. Prior to this, I called the cell phone company, and they said, no money in your account. So I got home, and I was a little upset, sober, not drunk. And we did have an argument. Her son was sleeping in our room, and if we did have such a horrendous fight, you know, he would have woken up in the first place. She did assault me. I didn't touch her. She could have called the police at any time. I did ask her to leave at that time because she was emotional, and that's about how it transpired, Your Honor.
Okay, Ms. Taggart. So let me explain something to you. Let's deal with the false allegations of abuse. There were no false allegations of abuse. You lost your cool, and you assaulted him. That's it. You bit him. You bit him here, you bit him here, you bit him here. I'm not sure whether I believe that he struck you and abused you, because if he did, the police would have arrested him. Did they respond to your home?
They did not. I actually tried to file a police report several times within the following weeks. I went to the desk, and the officer at the desk didn't care. They just shrugged me off.
Okay. There were many ways you could have handled the incident that occurred in your house on the 10th of May. You chose the most inappropriate one. Most appropriate one is if you're having a fight with him, and if you were emotional, which clearly you were, it's not the right time to take your son out of a sleeping bed. There's no question in my mind that Mr. Miller was not going to hurt your son. So you go outside, you cool off, you call your mother, you call the police if you have to, say, I want to go get my son. But what you don't do is you don't bite him and kick him and scratch him and punch him, and then go inside and put your hands over your son's sleeping ears so that he won't be awakened and frightened by the fight. That's stupid. You agree with that, don't you?
No, ma'am, I don't.
Well, then that's your problem. Because that's the right thing to do if you're a reasonable mother. Your daughter is emotional. She's your daughter, isn't it?
Yes.
Your daughter is emotional, and the truth of the matter is, on that day, May 10th, based upon what she told me, she did the wrong thing. She went to finalize wedding plans. He asked her not to go, to wait for him until he got out of work. She went anyway. There's no question he got upset with her. Instead of resolving the issue, she calls her mommy. Certainly, that's not the way two grown-ups are supposed to deal with their wedding plans. Your daughter got emotional. I don't believe Mr. Miller was drunk. I don't believe that for a minute. So, let's deal with the bank account. You say, Ms. Taggart, that Mr. Miller emptied the bank account.
Yes, ma'am, he did.
On what date did he empty the bank account?
It was the day immediately following the fight. It would have been May 11th.
How much money was in the bank account?
There was probably about 350-ish.
What do you mean 350-ish? Show me the account.
I don't know if I have the exact statement for that month.
Well, then I'm not interested in that part of the lawsuit, madam. That's what you're supposed to have here. Miss Taggart, if you come to court and you're suing because you say that he emptied out a joint bank account, what you have to bring is you have to bring proof of that. And that would be the bank statement for when he closed that bank account, how much money was in it, and it would also show me how much money was in it the day before the fight.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have that?
I only have the bank statements up until April, so I do not have that one.
Not interested. Okay, so empty out the bank account you don't have any proof of. Wedding expenses. Who was planning the wedding?
I was, as he had told me to.
Who was paying for the wedding?
I was, out of my income tax return.
So?
So that is where I come with the opinion that he owes me at least half of that.
He doesn't. There has to be an agreement. In the event that Mr. Miller said to you, which of course he didn't, I am going to pay for half of the wedding, then that's a contract. But Mr. Miller didn't say that to you. What you want is you want half the wedding expenses because there was no wedding, right?
This is right.
But that's not the way the law works. There's nothing in the law that gives you the right and gives me the right to say to Mr. Miller, well, it didn't work out and you should pay for half the expenses. That's a different kind of court. It's a court that doesn't exist in this country. Now, what property do you allege that you left at his house?
There is a mirror that was given to me as a Christmas gift from him. He would not allow me to take it because he said it matched the bed that his father had given us as an early wedding present. There's an anatomy book that I like to refer to for work. It's a very expensive Gray's Anatomy book. Just a few little things. I had gone to his house.
Not interested in a few little things, madam. I'm waiting. So far, I have a mirror and a book.
Also, since the bed was given to us as a mutual gift from his father, I believe that I deserve half of the cost of the bed.
Got to get over it, Miss Taggart. Got to move on, Miss Taggart. Didn't work out. Didn't work out. Okay. Did you buy her an anatomy book?
I did, Your Honor.
Do you have it?
No, Your Honor.
Where is it?
About 3 days after she had left, my house was burglarized, broken into, coincidentally enough.
When you say the house was burglarized, what was taken?
Everything, from couch, TV stand, television, all appliances, the mirror, blankets, you name it, it was burglarized.
Got it. Okay. Miss Taggart, you have to get over it. Move on. Put your hand down. Don't encourage her. Encourage her to move on.
I have encouraged her to
Good.
move on.
Good. Move on. It's over. It's finished. Go find somebody else. Devote all of your energies to something else. It's finished. Case is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
1 minute he would say he loved me. The next we were fighting, I was constantly in tears.
Her mother was controlling, and it just didn't work out.
He just always broke me down.
I'm glad to see it over, and I'm glad to be moving on with my life.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Martino Napolitano versus Di Simone. Step forward, please.
Sharon Martino Napolitano is suing the mother of her daughter's boyfriend, Deborah Di Simone, for damage caused to her Toyota Camry while the car was in her possession.
You two lovely ladies are neighbors, and you each have a child. You have a girl. You have a boy. They're dating each other.
Yes.
This is your complaint. You allowed your daughter, this young lady right here, to use your car. She was using your car one day to take Miss Di Simone around to do some chores.
Correct.
And that wouldn't have bothered you necessarily because she's the mother of the boyfriend, right? But then Miss Di Simone asked if she could borrow the car herself because she wanted to go food shopping, right?
Yes,
Food
to
town.
pick up a couple items.
And your daughter allowed her to drive the car. The car was damaged. You want Miss Di Simone to pay for the damage to the car.
Absolutely.
Miss Di Simone says she took the car, went into Food Town. While she was in Food Town, somebody must have hit your car.
Correct.
Right?
That is correct.
So it's not her fault. That's what you're saying.
That's correct.
We'll see. What year is your car?
It's a 1995 Camry.
How long have you had it?
Approximately a year.
So you bought it secondhand?
Yes, ma'am.
How many accidents have you had?
I've had one other one where I was hit from behind at a red light.
So you had a rear end damage to the car?
Mm.
Bumper? Or
Bumper.
Bumper. Only the bumper?
Only the bumper.
Was the car fixed?
No.
On September 6th, what kind of damage was done to your car?
It would be the right quarter panel.
You have a photograph?
Absolutely.
I'd like to see it, please.
Here's before and after.
Ooh. That's a bad one. Okay. So, you still dating each other?
Yes.
Okay, this is not going to be painful. Believe me. We're going to use the but-for rule, Miss Di Simone.
Okay.
But for the fact that you borrowed the car and took it to Food Town to go shopping, this wouldn't have happened. Unfortunately, you took the car. You didn't have her permission to drive the car. You had her daughter's permission to drive the car.
Actually, there was a couple things that happened prior to that. While I was in the car with her daughter, it was a very rainy day. Her daughter was driving the car. The car was hydroplaning a lot, and she became very nervous and asked if she pulled over if I would drive. I said, no problem, if it's safer. We completed our mission. We did proceed home, asked if she didn't mind if I ran back out to just pick up a couple items at the Food Town. That's when all that began, and the police report states differently, if you'd like to see it, that he even stated, the police officer, that he saw prior damage on the car.
You mean this prior damage?
No, other damage.
We're not talking about other damage. We're talking about this damage.
But she's saying that there was only damage to the bumper, and according to this, it states that there was...
What difference does it make? This damage was not on the car, madam, when you borrowed it.
No.
That's all I'm talking about.
I don't believe so.
I am only talking about, well, you don't miss this damage.
No.
Ma'am,
No, you don't have to speak. It was going to be easy. Now it's not so easy. For the fact that you borrowed the car, took it to Food Town, the car would have been parked in her driveway. If the car was parked in her driveway, the same driver that hit her car from Food Town would have had to look for it.
Can I please say
Stop.
something?
Do you understand?
Yes, I do.
And she's taking your word for the fact that you don't know how this accident happened. But it looks as if somebody hit your car. If she had hit somebody else's car, unless she, I don't know how you can contort yourself to do this kind of a damage to somebody else's car, but you had the car, but for the fact that you borrowed the car, it wouldn't have had this kind of damage.
Correct.
This damage. Good. Then we don't have a problem. What do you want?
Okay. She just got done stating that the car was hydroplaning earlier, okay?
It doesn't make any difference.
Excuse me. They made it home safely. She has a Jeep Cherokee parked in the same parking lot that she could have used her own vehicle to go to the store. There is no reason to take my little car back out.
Let me ask you this question. Now you're getting angry, and you already won. So you have to take it, you have to go, find your center.
I've been trying to do a lot of it. I've been trying to find a lot of my center.
And say, it's over.
But I would have never asked her son to use her car.
Listen to me. It's a car. She's responsible. Done. Romeo and Juliet here, going to leave here happy. I suggest you do the same. How much did it cost to fix your car?
The estimate is $1687.98.
That's a pretty cheap estimate for this kind of damage.
I think so.
It is. Anything else? Romeo, Juliet. Judging for the plaintiff in the amount of $1687.98. Thank you. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Account manager Fred Grande is suing the mother of his child, 25-year-old waitress Mariam Wahab, for the return of an engagement ring. Mariam claims the ring was a birthday gift.
Quiet in the courtroom, please. Yeah, this is case number 60 on the calendar in the matter of Grande versus Wahab. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Gentlemen, have seats.
Mr. Grande, you want the engagement ring back, and the defendant says it was not an engagement ring, but a birthday Christmas present. Right?
That's correct.
Can I see the receipt for the ring? Okay, well, the first thing I have to ascertain is, Mr. Grande, you are suing her for $699 for the return of the value of the ring, and you only paid $359.11 for it. What's the other money for?
Okay, originally the $699 is the retail value of the ring. I did have it appraised, and the total that I did pay on it is $385, and that's the total amount that I did pay into it. So that's what I would be seeking is $385.
But didn't you think I'd figure that out?
Yeah.
I mean, when you filed your lawsuit, didn't you think that I'd figure out that you were seeking twice as much as you paid for the ring?
Well,
you are the only human being in history who buys a ring from a jewelry store and it doubles in value in a relatively short period of time. All right, so you're not seeking $700 for the ring, you're seeking $359.11.
That's correct.
Okay.
There's nothing wrong with shooting big, though.
Oh, I shoot big too, sir. Okay, so now we know what your lawsuit is about, Mr. Grande. You and the defendant have a child together, is that right?
We do.
And how old is that child?
She's 16 months.
And you share custody of her?
We do.
I have full custody.
Shh. Don't speak out. I'm really good at getting information. It's really my strong suit. I'm really good at getting quality, accurate information. But I like to get it from the person who I choose to get it from. Okay? Do you have joint custody, sir?
She has sole custody. I have joint legal custody, though.
Okay, so she has sole physical custody. She takes care of all the problems, and you can say, I have joint legal custody.
Somewhat.
See, I told you I shoot big. So you had a long-term relationship with her?
Yeah, over 2 years.
Oh, lifetime. And in the 2 years that you were together, you managed to have a relationship, have a baby, and separate. Is that right?
Correct.
And since I assume, Mr. Grande, that you have been to court, if you have joint legal custody, despite the fact that she has physical custody, I also assume that there is a support order.
There is.
And how much is the support order?
It's for $337 a month, but right now I'm currently paying $500.
Well, $337 a month is the support order, and if you're paying $500, there must have been some arrears.
Correct.
Which means that you weren't paying for a while.
Not necessarily, no.
Well, that's what arrears are, sir. Arrears are fixed by the court.
Correct.
If, for a period of time, you are not paying support. Don't you think that they put me here for a reason?
Oh, I understand.
You think that I was a go-go dancer before I got this job? I was not. I was a judge in the family court. Arrears are when you don't pay support. They fix on and they tack on an additional amount for that period of time that you didn't pay support.
It's not from lack of payment, though. We originally went to court in June, and she felt that the $250 wasn't sufficient, so then we didn't get to court and finalize until September. So
Just a minute. She felt what $250 wasn't sufficient?
Originally, the support order was set at $250, and she didn't fill out.
Okay. So originally, a court set child support at $250, or you were paying it voluntarily?
It hadn't been set in any decree yet.
Fine. So you were giving her voluntarily, according to you, $250 a month.
She didn't get any money until September, till the final decree was established.
Now, the final decree was what? $337?
Correct.
Well, you just said to me they felt that $250 wasn't enough.
It was for back payments, $337 times all the months since the original court date of June. So that's why I was, from the start, I was $1,400.
What was this $250 that you were talking to me about, Mr. Grande?
That's what our lawyers had come to agreement, and we thought that's what the amount should have been set at.
Mr. Grande, is what you're telling me from the time you and the defendant separated until the time the court fixed an order of support, you were not paying any money?
No.
So, what I said to you was, your support order is $337, and because you were dingling around, they added another amount to cover the arrears for when you weren't paying any money. And you ought to respond, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
No.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, how long was it that you were separated, Mr. Grande, before the court set an order of support?
She moved out in February 2002.
Yes, and when did the court make a support order?
September of 2002.
February, March, April, May, June, July, August. So for 8 months, you didn't pay any support. Is that right?
Correct, Your Honor.
Now let's get to this $350 engagement ring, the Hope Diamond that you bought for her. Can I see the ring? That looks like a pretty ring. Doesn't look like any sort of an engagement ring I ever saw. Engagement ring usually has one nice stone right there in the middle that just sits there and smiles at you. Give this back to her until I decide what to do with it, would you? When's your birthday?
December 18th.
And is it on December 18th every year?
Yes.
It doesn't change dates. You know,
Right.
2002 it's December 18th, 2003 it's December 18th, right?
Right.
So, Mr. Grande, you're going to explain to me, sir, how serendipitously, that means just by accident, sort of, you purchased this ring at the jewelry store on December 18th, 2002.
Coincidence.
Coincidence.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I opened the case, showed it to her, and I said, will you marry me?
And what did she say?
Well, of course, she said yes.
I would have thought twice.
If she said no, she wouldn't be wearing the ring, right?
And later today,
Of course, she could have done that to my car too.
Listen, she could have stood on her head and had twins in the parking lot of Target. She could have done that too, but she didn't.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Fred Grande says his ex-fiancée, Mariam Wahab, owes for the return of an engagement ring. Mariam says the ring was a birthday gift.
Tell me what happened when you gave her the ring in December of 2000, December 18th, 2002, or whenever you gave it to her.
It's not when I gave it to her, but I'll explain
When did you
it to
give it to her?
I took myself, her mother, her brother, and his wife, and my mother out to dinner, and that's when I presented the ring to her.
Explain to me how you did that.
Well, we sat down before we got the food. I opened the case, showed it to her, and I said, will you marry me? I didn't say happy birthday. I didn't say Merry Christmas. I said, will you marry me?
And what did she say?
Well, of course, she said yes.
I would have thought twice.
If she said no, she wouldn't be wearing the ring, right?
Okay. Okay, good. So that's how it happened.
Correct.
And that was on what date, sir?
I would say it was about December 20th.
And you remember that distinctly?
I know it was after her birthday,
No, you
yes.
remember. No, do you remember distinctly exactly how it happened? Because
Yes, I do.
we're not talking so long ago, right?
No.
So you remember that day and that dinner clearly,
I do.
and you would remember something that happened the day before also clearly. Is that right?
I would.
Your daughter wasn't born yet, is that right?
She wasn't.
But the defendant was pregnant at the time.
She was, yeah, she was due very soon.
So she was very pregnant at
Sure.
the time. So it was an exciting time, and you would remember that time. What did you get for the defendant for her birthday, December of 2002, 2 days before you gave her the ring?
I believe it was some clothes.
No, you're not, you believe. I'm going to give you a minute to just sit back and think about it. Her birthday, your girlfriend, who's very pregnant, going to have your baby, who you love desperately, who you had bought a ring for 2 days before you gave it to her, is celebrating a birthday on December 18th. And birthdays are really important when you have a new relationship, so you wouldn't think of not getting her something for her birthday.
Correct.
So now I want you to think really hard and tell me what you bought her for her birthday. Think hard. I want you to put on your thinking cap.
I believe
hard.
it was a sweater and an outfit.
Was it a maternity sweater or a regular sweater?
It was a regular sweater.
Was it a maternity outfit or a regular outfit?
It was a regular.
Was it a daytime outfit or an evening outfit?
Daytime. Well, I know what you're getting at. I do.
You do?
I do.
Then if you do, then why don't you just, instead of lying...
Well, because if...
No, listen to me. Instead of lying and making things up as you're going, why don't you just say, quite frankly, Judge, I don't remember. I'm sure I bought her a birthday present on her birthday, but quite frankly, I don't remember, instead of standing there like a jerk and making things up.
I don't think that's the case.
What do you mean you don't think that's the case? You don't think that I know that you just stood there and made up the fact that you got her a sweater and an outfit for her birthday?
I was planning on giving her the ring around her birthday and before Christmas. I mean, it's not like I was making the best money, at that time, so...
Mr. Grande,
regardless.
don't you understand what I just said to you? I said that you lied when you just told me that you got her a sweater and an outfit for her birthday, when in fact... You just told me now that you got her nothing else because you were planning on giving her a ring around her birthday. And I said to you, don't stand there and make things up as you're going along because it makes you look ridiculous. Now, do you want to explain to me how you got this ring?
Yes, it was on my birthday, December 18th. We went to dinner that night on my birthday. It was my mom, my brother, his girlfriend, and he didn't give it to me where anybody else could see it. He handed me the box under the table and didn't say anything. He never asked me to marry him, nothing like that. And I took it and then I brought it above the table and I showed everybody else, and that was it. Okay. And he gave me the receipt to go get it sized.
That's how you have the receipt?
Right.
Okay. When did you separate?
February 18th. It was 2003. It was after I had the baby. She was like 2 months old.
And when for the first time did he ask you for the ring back?
He sent me an email probably around December. I'm not sure of the month, but it was a while ago.
December of Can I see? Is that the email? May I have it, please?
And he asked me for
That's her
it
response
back.
on top. It's kind of colorful language, so
Oh, I can take it. Now, when did you separate, Mr. Grande?
She moved out in February.
February of what year?
2003.
And this was sent on February 2004, a year later.
Mm-hmm.
And this was after you had been in court, is that right? Because I
Correct.
see you've got lawyers here.
Mm-hmm.
So after you were taken to court and you were given a support order in the amount of $500 a month, which includes arrears, we got this. Is that right?
Correct.
Too bad.
They didn't address
I have to make a determination. I'm speaking. I have to make a determination whether the ring that you gave her a year and a half ago was a birthday present or an engagement present. So let's try to look at certain objective data. A, we had a relationship that had come to a point when there was going to be a permanent commitment because you had a child together. B, I find that it was not serendipitous that this ring was purchased on the day of her birthday, and I believe her and not you that it was the 18th of December when the family went out to dinner to celebrate her birthday, and not you taking the family out to dinner to present her with an engagement ring. When it was presented to her, it was just given to her exactly as she said as it was given to her, which is
under the table.
Under the table. Here it is. She took it out and showed it to everybody.
We hadn't.
I find that,
No.
furthermore,
No.
if it walks like a duck and talks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's a duck. It doesn't look like an engagement ring. It looks like a ring.
Judge, we had an
I'm
engagement
speaking.
party. This is important, though.
I'm speaking.
Do I have a chance when you're done?
No. You had your chance, she had her chance. Now I'm ruling. Now you have to be quiet.
There was an engagement party
now
in
you have to
Virginia.
be quiet. Do you understand? Now you have to be quiet. Most importantly, sir, how you have the audacity to sue her for a $300 ring when for 6 months you paid not 1 penny in child support, not a penny, is something, quite frankly, Mr. Grande, that I don't understand. And your demand for the engagement ring back, engagement ring is in quotes, made a year after you separated at a time when she was taking you to court for support is outrageous. And before I would come to court, when I had committed an outrageous act to seek the return of a $300 ring, I would take a good stiff drink and think twice about where my morals are. Your case is dismissed, Mr. Grande. Thank you very much.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
He thought I started dating other people, and that's when he got mad and asked for his ring back, and I said no.
We had an engagement party in Virginia, which didn't get brought up. Was that a fake engagement party? I doubt it.
Right. We just tried to make it look good, like I was getting married before I was pregnant, before I told him I was pregnant.
I take care of my child. I pay support. I've never missed a payment.
As far as the child support, for example, he tries to get over on everybody as much as he can, and like this. But in the end, he always ends up looking stupid.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Blessum versus Blessum. Step forward.
22-year-old salesperson Kaylee Blessum is suing her brother, 19-year-old warehouse worker Adam Blesson for crashing her car. Adam says Kaylee's insurance should pay.
What's your first name?
Kaylee?
Kaylee. That's your brother. You each have a car.
Yes.
What kind of car do you have?
A 2000 Mitsubishi Galant.
And what kind of car does Adam have?
He had a 2002 Mitsubishi Galant.
What happened to his car?
He got into an accident a couple months ago.
Totaled his car?
Mm-hmm.
When did he borrow your car?
He borrowed it around May 10th of '03.
And at that time he had a car?
Yes.
But he liked your car better because your car had nicer...
rims and just flashier of a car.
I know you love these cases.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Kaylee Blesson is suing her brother, 19-year-old warehouse worker Adam Blesson, for crashing her car. Adam says Kaylee's insurance should pay.
You borrowed her car to go over to a friend's house.
Yep.
What happened, Adam?
On the way to bring a car back, I slid on some kind of ice. So I slid off to the left side of the road and hit a tree.
And what did you do to your sister's car?
I broke the headlight, the bumper, and crushed the fender a little.
A lot of damage.
So you caused some damage to her car.
Yeah.
And you want him to pay for the damage.
Yes.
Adam says, why didn't you put this through the insurance that you had on the car?
I called the insurance company and they actually told me that if I did, because
he was 19 years old, your insurance rates would go up and they would go up for a very long time.
Right.
So you want her to put this through her insurance and you'd be, according to you, more than happy to pay for her deductible. Is that right?
Right.
That's your defense.
Yeah.
Are you more than happy, Adam, to pay for her increased insurance rates for the next 5 years?
No.
Why not?
Or she could have, she could have done that to my car too.
Listen, she could have stood on her head and had twins in the parking lot of Target. She could have done that too, but she didn't. You caused an accident damaging her car, right?
Right.
If she were to put the accident through her insurance, it would cost her additional premiums, at least for the next 5 years, through no fault of her own. So, would you be prepared to pay for her $500 deductible as well as her increased insurance premiums over the next 5 years?
No.
Why not?
We didn't have an agreement on if that were to happen. Accidents happen.
Yes, accidents happen. And the person who is closest in responsibility for that accident bears the responsibility for that accident.
Mm-hmm.
That's what an accident is, my friend. That's why they don't call it an on purpose.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
All right. Had you been more careful with her car would not have been in an accident. If there was ice and rain on the street that night, you should have taken your own car. And if you chose to take her car, you assumed the responsibility for any damage that was done to the car, not her. How much did it cost to fix your car?
Total was $1587.47.
Can I see the bill, please?
I have actually 2 estimates that I got.
Did you fix it yet?
Yes.
Good. Well, how much did it cost you to fix it?
The $1587.47.
Okay. The other one was more.
Right.
Good. What kind of work do you do, Adam?
It's an assembly line.
You work regularly?
Yep.
You live at home?
I live with my girlfriend at her parents' house.
At her parents' house?
Yeah.
You mean her parents think that you're prize enough to let you move into their house with their daughter? How old is their daughter?
19.
19. Uh-huh. All right. Kaylee!
Yes.
He has to fix your car. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,587.
Thank you very much.
Please excuse me.
20-year-old homemaker Autumn Platts is suing the father of her child, 21-year-old car wholesaler Brian Nice, for the cost of a car and unpaid rent. Autumn also says Brian punched a hole into the wall of their apartment.
Yes, case number 63 on the calendar in the matter of Platts versus Nice. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
How old are you, Miss Platts?
20 years old.
And you, sir?
21.
Well, the two of you decided to play house together. You moved in, you had a couple of dollars, you put $1,500 towards a used car that was purchased, then you had a baby, and then you decided that this family life was not for you right now, so you left. And what you want is you want your $1,500 back that you put down on the car because he took the car with him.
Yes.
You want him to pay some more money for rent because he left, leaving you with a lease.
Yes, Your Honor.
And you say that he caused some damage to the apartment?
Yes, Brian
caused some damage to the apartment. He says, well, there's plenty of security deposit to take care of that. He says that the car is his, it's in his name, it's titled in his name, it's registered in his name, it's his car, he had every right to take it. Doesn't deny that you put in the $1,500, right?
Correct.
He said that was a gift. And as
Your
far
Honor,
as
that
the
was
rent,
not a gift.
and as far as the rent is concerned, he said he was a really nice guy because he paid November and December's rent.
Correct.
Even though he only lived there part of November, and the rest you have to take care of, right? Good.
No,
okay.
Your Honor.
How old is the baby?
10 months.
Who do you live with now?
The baby and I live together in our apartment.
In the same apartment?
Yes.
Are you working?
Currently, no.
Who's paying the rent on the apartment?
I've been using the baby's Christmas money, Catholic Charities help me, and my tax return money I've been using, and my parents have been helping me out.
How far do you live from your parents?
Maybe 3 miles.
And you don't want to go home?
No. It's my responsibility, my daughter. It is not my parents to take care of my daughter and I.
Well, but you said that they've been helping you. My question is, I mean, is there a reason that you wouldn't go home with your daughter?
No. Just that I'm independent with my daughter. This is our home.
Well, you're not independent. Miss Platts, let me explain something to you, darling, sweetheart, little girl. You're not independent if Catholic Charities are supporting you, your parents are supporting you, you're using the baby's money, which was not intended to use for your rent. That doesn't make you independent. That makes you dependent on a whole bunch of people. Independence means that you're able to take care of yourself. Do we understand each other?
Yes.
There's a difference between being independent and just because you're living in an apartment not with your family, and being independent because you're taking care of yourself and your responsibilities.
Well, I was working prior to Brian.
I was.
And
I used to be a natural blonde. Do you understand? That's used to be. I was never a natural blonde. Get me riled. What are you doing with yourself?
I work full time.
And how much money do you contribute towards your daughter? It's not an answer.
I pay child support. They take
how much?
$120 a week.
I have not received money.
And I
don't just think that you can pop in here and speak. You cannot. When I look in your direction or ask you a question, you can speak. Do we understand each other?
Yes.
Good. When did you start to pay $120 a week?
It went into effect about 3 weeks ago.
3 weeks ago?
Yeah.
Okay. And you left in November?
Yes, ma'am.
Let's say 6 months. How much did you give her for 6 months?
I don't know offhand. Money here and
No,
here
just
and
a
there.
second. Offhand? I'm going to give you a second to think.
Okay.
When you moved out in November, how much money did you give her?
I paid the rent for November.
Good. Anything else?
No.
December?
I paid the rent also in December.
Anything else?
No.
January?
Nothing.
Nothing. February?
Nothing.
March?
Nothing.
April?
Nothing.
Were you working?
Yes, ma'am.
Why weren't you giving her money?
Because I didn't feel that I should have to pay her rent any longer.
I'm not talking about paying her rent. I'm talking about giving her money to support your daughter.
I give her money here and there
Here and there is what?
when I have extra money to give.
No. Is your last name Nice?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Nice, what kind of work do you do?
I work for a Chevy dealership,
How many hours a week do you work?
about 45 to 50.
How would you feel if your employer said, I think we're going to pay you once in a while?
I wouldn't appreciate it.
Right. Why is that, sir? Because it's their responsibility to pay you for the hours that you worked. Is that right?
Absolutely.
That's a commitment that they made. You work, they pay, right?
Yes.
When you make a baby, you have a commitment, the same sort of responsibility, not when you have extra money. Your baby eats before you do. We understand each other, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, when you left Miss Platts, she wasn't working. Is that right?
That's right.
And she was staying home and taking care of the baby. Put your hand down. I'm not speaking to you. So when you left, you knew that unless you gave her support, she was going to have to find some other way of getting money, because daycare is expensive. So either she was going to stay home with the baby or put the baby in daycare and get a job, probably be a wash, right? So who did you think was going to support your baby?
Her.
How?
Find a job.
And who was going to take care of the baby?
A friend, babysitter.
And who was going to pay the friend or babysitter?
If she works, her.
And what about you?
Me too.
But you didn't?
I would help if she had a babysitter. I would help pay for it.
Did you tell her that?
Probably not.
Huh?
Have a good time. This one here.
Mr. Nice, did you use $1,500 of her money towards the purchase of this used car?
Yes, I did.
And how much was the car?
$2,500.
Where did you get the other $1,000 from?
I came up with it. My money.
What do you mean you came up with it?
I had money, Your Honor.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You had a temper flare-up, is that right?
Yes.
Don't go back looking for your security deposit, sir. Do you understand?
Yes.
Because you've spent it.
And later today...
Is there a rest of that outfit that you're wearing? You wouldn't go to church in that outfit, would you?
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Autumn Platt says the father of her child, Brian Nice, owes for a car, his share of rent, and damage to their apartment. Autumn says Brian walked out on her and their baby.
Now, when you left, you took the car.
Yes, ma'am.
When did you purchase the car?
Last April.
So you had the car for less than a year when you left,
Yep.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And this car was to be used for the two of you as a family. Is that right?
Correct.
That's why she gave you more money than you put in for the car, right?
Yes.
So what makes you think that you're entitled to that car?
It's titled, registered, insured. She doesn't even have a license to drive a car.
That doesn't answer the question, sir. Same situation existed when she gave you the $1,500.
Correct.
The expectation was that the car was going to be used as a family for you, for her, for the baby, right?
Right.
Okay, when was the baby born?
July.
And the car was purchased in April?
Yes.
Now, I want you to tell me about the damage to the house. First, who put down the security deposit?
Brian and I both put in $250 each for the security deposit.
What is the estimate of the damage to the apartment?
$217.50.
Well, then his half of the security deposit is going to cover the damage.
The holes are fixed now, and the bill is due. And I don't get the security deposit back until I move out of this apartment.
Get a job.
I start a job next week.
Perfect. He's not getting back his security deposit of $250. It's less than $250 to fix the holes that he put in the wall because he was angry. He had a temper flare-up, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
So, don't go back looking for your security deposit, sir. Do you understand?
Yes.
Because you've spent it. Now let's get to the rent. Do you intend to stay in this apartment?
Yes, I do.
And it is possible to break the lease on this apartment because you're not responsible for the apartment because you were underage when you moved into the apartment. I mean, you couldn't sign a contract. You have to be 21 to sign a contract?
No, I have a lease that Brian and I both signed.
How old were you when you signed it?
Oh, I was 19.
Did you speak to the landlord with regard to breaking the lease?
Yes, and we would still have to pay the rent.
No, that's not true.
Oh.
No, that's not true. What do you mean? Oh, I asked you if you spoke to the landlord. Did the landlord tell you that for
He
so
said
much
he would
money
take
you
us
could...
to court.
No, he wouldn't. Did you try to sublet the apartment?
It says in the lease that no one else can move into there.
No, it says that you cannot sublet it without written consent of the owner. That's what it says. But you choose to stay there.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
Well, if you choose to stay there and he paid November and December's rent, then you have to cover the rest.
I have the bills that I have paid from January till May.
Good.
The rent.
Good.
But
That's what you
I
have to
had
do.
put in money, too, for November and December's rent also.
That's okay. You were living there.
Yes.
So?
But I feel he should have to pay me half the rent for them
No, he
months
doesn't.
because his name is on the lease.
No, he doesn't. Madam, if you decide, Miss Platts, to stay in the apartment and you have the ability to either sublet the apartment or for a fee terminate the lease, and you chose to stay in the apartment with your daughter so that you can be independent, then you pay the rent, not him. Do I make myself clear?
Yes.
Perfect. But you are entitled to your $1,500 back. because the $1,500 was not a gift over here to Prince Charming. The $1,500 was made with the expectation that both of you would be enjoying the car. Do I make myself clear, sir?
Yes.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,500.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
He has supervised visitations on Saturdays 12 to 2 for 2 months now, over 2 months, and he's shown up for 1.
I work Saturdays. It's hard to get the day off.
I want him drug tested because he does drugs.
I have to pass a drug test, which should not be a problem.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Nagel versus Goulet, step forward, please.
20-year-old salesperson Michael Nagel is suing his ex-roommate, 18-year-old model Jessica Goulet, for unpaid rent and bills. Jessica is countersuing, claiming Michael sold her stereo and pet bird.
The defendant was a roommate of yours, and it is your claim that she moved out owing you for some rent and bills.
Correct, Your Honor.
Ms. Goulet says that she owes you nothing. As a matter of fact, she says that you have retained her property and sold some of her property, according to her, and that you actually owe her money.
Yes.
Is there a rest of that outfit that you're wearing? When you go to a court, what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to cover your belly button. Do you understand?
I do understand that.
Good. But?
I was just going to say that I only have a very limited amount of clothing because all of my other property is at his place.
Well, would you like to borrow her shirt? That would have been more appropriate. Do you understand?
Yes.
You have to know where you're going. You wouldn't go to church in that outfit, would you?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So you know enough to do that?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Good. Now, when did she become your roommate and under what circumstances?
October 28th, 2003, Your Honor. The circumstances were, I've known her brother for close to 9 years now. We moved in together. However, his job made him move. So under his advice, I took in his sister and her boyfriend as my new roommates because without that, I would have to cover the rent and bills all by myself.
Okay. They were each going to pay how much? A third of the rent each?
They each were going to pay $225 a month for rent, Your Honor.
And how much was your rent?
$525, Your Honor.
And they did move in on the 28th of October?
Yes, Your Honor.
What happened in November? Did they pay rent?
Yes.
December?
Yes.
January?
No.
What happened in January?
Her check bounced, Your Honor, and I had to cover that, and I've only been reimbursed $150 from that check.
Why did your check bounce in January?
My parents had just moved, and I was taking care of everything on my own. I had just gotten a car and things like that, and I thought I had the money. If I wrote the check, I would be able to put it in the bank and it would clear, but it just...
So she owed you $75 from January?
$113 from January, Your Honor.
Why?
Due to the fact that there was a late fee on this.
I got you. Okay, so that's January. And what happened in February?
I had come back from Nashville, Tennessee on February 3rd, and I had asked her about rent because it was due. I had talked to the landlord, and he had given me an extension to turn it in on the 3rd. So I asked her about rent, and she flatly said, you know, I don't have it. So Is
that right?
Yeah, I told him that I didn't have it, that I would get it to him as soon as I could.
And she didn't, Your Honor.
When did you move out?
I actually moved out. He had kicked my boyfriend out, say January 16th, around that time, and there was a big discussion about that.
Why did you put her boyfriend out?
Because he didn't pay bills, Your Honor.
I didn't agree with it because he wasn't going to give him any time. My boyfriend agreed to give him $600 on that Monday, but he told him no.
Why didn't he pay him when he was supposed to?
Because he wasn't going to get the money until that Monday. He couldn't get the money till then.
Your Honor.
Because of his work.
Just a second. So the two of you expected him to cover your bills until you could get your acts together.
He told us that he had an extension on all of that and it was okay. When my boyfriend offered to give him the $600, he said that if he gave him the $600 that he could stay there, no problem. And then he called my brother and my brother told him no, that just kick him out now, don't even take the money. So he just packed up his stuff.
What was the $600 for?
The electricity bill, the phone bill, and the cable bill. He had ran up a large amount on my cable bill by ordering adult entertainment on there, as well as movies. And I have proof of that in my records, Your Honor.
I believe you. Listen, if they had paid their bills, I assume you wouldn't have minded if they stayed.
Right.
Right? Okay, so she owes you for February's rent.
Yes, Your Honor.
You didn't pay February's rent, did you?
I moved out before February 1st.
No, she didn't, Your Honor.
No, you just told me you were there.
I actually was staying there, but during the day I was with my boyfriend. And when I came back to get clothes and stuff like that, because I was staying the night with him, he was like, your check bounced, I need the rent, and you have to get out.
you either pay me or you get out. So I told him that I would leave, that I would try to go get the money. When I came back, he said, you can only take your clothing, because I didn't want to stay there anymore, because when he gets pissed off...
You see, Your Honor, I gave her a chance to get her clothing, and she refused.
I refused to get my clothes?
Yeah,
that's all I have is my clothes. You have everything else. You have everything else of my belongings.
Miss Goulet, first fix your shirt. Very good. Don't fight with each other. You want to fight with each other, you go outside. You don't come inside.
Sorry.
Okay, $338, $113 for January that's still due and owing, $225 for February because you lived there most of the month. If you left to follow your boyfriend, that's your problem. Grow up! You got to grow up! Now, let's talk about her property. You still have her property?
Yes, Your Honor.
What about her bird? She says that you sold her bird.
She left it there, Your Honor. That was her brother. Her brother decided to sell it, not me.
Step up. Tell me your name.
My name's James.
Did you come into possession of her bird?
Yes.
When?
After she left, I had started staying there to help Mike out with his bills and stuff like that, and I sold her bird as well as her stereo. And then she's also countersing.
Why did you do that?
Just, you know, come up with some extra money to help him out.
And also, Your Honor, she had been gone for over a month by that time. She had not called or come by to get her stuff. Therefore, I had no room and nowhere to keep the stuff.
She doesn't have, you don't have to take care of a bird. Well, you want the money for your bird back?
The money for my bird was $500, bird and cage, and plus my stereo was $150.
Your brother sold it.
I know,
You're
but
suing the wrong person. Now, as far as your clothes and other property is concerned, you still have them?
Yeah, she can.
When could she pick them up?
She pick it up right after court, Your Honor.
Terrific.
Now, also, Your Honor, we had a lease agreement when her and her boyfriend moved in that if they did violate the lease, they would be responsible to pay their half of the rent until March.
Where? Show me. They signed it?
Yes, Your Honor, and it's dated also.
Are you still living there?
I actually moved into a different apartment in the same building, Your Honor.
When?
April of this year, Your Honor.
But, Honor, all I'd like to say is I've tried countless times to call him and get a hold of them. My witness has tried calling them. I have tried calling
For what?
them to get a hold of them. So I was going to offer him $500 to pay off the bills so I can get my stuff back. But
He's giving you your stuff back.
I know, but I was going to do this before we even had to go to court. I didn't want it to go this far.
I have a question, though. If she wants her stuff back and was offering me $500, why is she suing me for $5,000?
Because
she's not going to get 5,000 yen. Do you understand? You're just going to give her back her stuff. And please give her back all of her shirts.
Yes,
I wanted to have a nice long shirt.
And pants.
Did they give you any deposit when they moved in?
Yes, Your Honor, they did.
How much of a deposit did they give you?
They gave me $250 together. $250 had to go towards some of the bills.
You got a lot of bills. So far, she owes you for January and February's rent.
Correct, Your Honor.
You know, this is not windfall day for you. Do you understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $338, and 5 days from today, she will pick up all of her stuff. Thank you very much. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Banker Cindy Sullivan is suing fellow motorist advertising strategist Anthony Nico Van Prague for damaging her car in a fit of road rage. Nico is countersuing, claiming Cindy shoved him off his motorcycle.
Now, this is case number 20 on the calendar in the matter of Sullivan versus Van Prague. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
I have a claim, Officer Byrd, and I have a counterclaim. And these two people were involved in an incident of road rage. Each one of them got a little out of hand. So Miss Sullivan is suing the defendant for damage she says he did to her car when he kicked her car with a boot, I assume, that boot. And then for having her falsely arrested for assault. Mr. Van Prague says she did in fact assault him. He is suing her for that. And he's also suing her for damage she did to his motorcycle. When she pushed him off the motorcycle, he lost control of it and it was damaged. They're going to try to explain to me by the use of these charts why each of them was right. You were driving your car, Miss Sullivan. You were coming from where? Show me.
I was coming from here and was stopped at the stoplight there.
Stopped at a stoplight. And then according to what I sort of put together in your complaint, you got a phone call.
Yes.
While you were stopped at the stoplight.
Correct.
And that phone call said that somebody you knew was taken to the hospital. You had to change direction.
Correct. Later on down the road.
Now, show me where you had to go after you got this phone call.
The phone call was complete before I moved my car. The light was red. I was in this lane. I was going to have to be in number 2 lane later down the road because I did not want to get on the freeway. I wanted to go straight to the hospital. There's quite a bit of traffic, so I knew it was going to take me quite a while to get over, so I put my turn signal on. You have to keep this clear, and there was congestion all over, so when the light turned green, there was one other car in front of me. It proceeded through when it was safe and could clear the intersection. I slowly started to go through. I accelerated when I see I could make it through the intersection. Just as I entered the intersection, I went by my driver's side and then cut in front of me, right about here where the median is.
Okay, so what did you do?
I flashed my lights at him, kind of like to say...
Just a minute.
Yes?
He passed you.
Correct.
Safely passed you, didn't hit you.
Correct.
And you could have just kept on going and meandered over to the right.
Correct.
But you chose to flash your brights at him.
Correct.
In an act of road rage.
If you want to interpret that way?
Well, that's what it is.
Okay.
You flashed your lights on, hoping to annoy him, because he, according to you, went around you too fast and cut in front of you.
There is not a lane of traffic where he passed me.
What happened next?
Well, I proceeded, someone let me in, so after I made it through the intersection, I made it into the number 2 lane. Good. Traffic was stopped. My car wasn't completely in the number 2 lane. It was kind of like at an angle, but I was completely in the number 2 lane.
Okay, what happened next?
Traffic was stopped. I had an SUV next to me. I saw the headlight of the gentleman's motorcycle come out from behind the SUV, so I assumed he was going to go between the two of us, as many motorcycles do. And then I heard and felt something hit my car.
Mm-hmm.
I immediately got out because I figured he hit my car trying to go between us. And I said, "What the hell are you doing?"
You didn't say hell.
Yes, I said hell.
No, it's not even what you say here, you said to him. What are you doing? Okay, you said, what are you doing?
Well, I didn't say I used profanity, as we both did. He started yelling at me, saying I tried to kill him. He said he kicked my car to get my attention. Mm-hmm. And that he yelled that I tried to kill him. Mm-hmm. And I said, no, you're the one that did a evasive move in traffic through the intersection and cutting in front of me. You're the one that could have caused hurt. Okay, so words continued to go, just yelling back and forth. All I could see was his eyes and his mouth. He had a helmet on. And I saw something in his eye, and his whole body in the motorcycle came forward. And I just had a split reaction to defend myself. I put my hands out in front of me, extended my arms, and
you pushed
backed
him.
up. Correct.
You pushed him.
Correct.
Okay, and what happened when you pushed him?
He jumped off the bike.
Okay. As
I'm backing away, he went to lay the bike down. He had his hand on the handle of the grip, and as he laid it down, it kind of spun a little bit. It revved up. I saw the back tire turn. It made contact with the ground. The bike rotated once, twice. He reached back, and I guess it's the throttle or whatever, and stopped from revving. He started jumping around, yelling and screaming, and I continued to proceed to my car, backing up, got into my car. He yelled about calling the police. I said, go right ahead, and I'm going to. I wanted to leave the scene because I felt unsafe. I didn't know what he was going to do.
Well, Sullivan, why did you get out of your car in the first place?
It's just reaction. I thought he hit my car. It was an accident. We need to get out and exchange information. I didn't know he did it aggressively. Well,
once you realized what it was, why didn't you quickly get back into your car instead of standing out there in the street with traffic all around you, screaming and yelling at him?
I don't know. I guess I wanted him to hear my side. He's saying I tried to kill him. I said, no, I didn't. You're the one that did something evasive and illegal.
Now, at some point, you say that police arrived and you told them your side of the story. You told them your side of the story. Is that right, sir?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. But then the next day, you went to the police station.
Correct.
To file a supplementary report.
Correct.
Why?
Because when I came out, we had first looked, it was dark. They tried to look at the flashlight, and they couldn't see the dent in my car. You could see like the outline of a foot on each side. So when I came out the next morning, sun out, you could see the dent. So I went down to the police station just so they could put that in record that there was damage to my car.
All right. Can I see the initial police reports, please?
I had all the supplementals attached. Do you
when were you arrested for assault?
I wasn't arrested. I was charged.
Charged?
I received it in mid-April.
Good. Can I see it, please? It says that you did willfully and unlawfully use force upon a person, to wit, Anthony Von Prague. You did do that.
To protect myself, yes.
Well, I haven't heard protecting yourself. He didn't put his hands on you.
He had a 600-pound motorcycle that himself and the motorcycle moved towards me.
You say in your initial report to the police, you don't say that he lunged forward with his motorcycle. What you say is she got out of the car, she saw Von Prague. It's at one point she thought she saw Von Prague and his motorcycle lunge toward her. Out of instinct and self-defense, she put her hands out and pushed Von Prague on his right side, okay? So you don't say that he moved the motorcycle. You say to the police, you thought he moved the motorcycle.
Okay.
I haven't gotten to him yet.
I understand.
I haven't gotten to him yet. I'm just telling you that I think that your behavior that day was stupid.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
And what do you do when you come in contact with a nut?
The smart thing to do would be just to proceed in the opposite direction. Yes, Your Honor. So I knocked on her car once.
No, I'm not finished with my...
Okay. I'm sorry.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Cindy Sullivan says fellow motorist Nico Van Prague kicked her car. Nico claims Cindy assaulted him.
Now, we're going to hear from you.
Okay.
Go.
Okay, Your Honor, I was proceeding in the number 1 lane here with my motorcycle. The defendant was trying to cross over into the number 3 lane, which is the northbound lane getting onto the freeway here, and she had blocked traffic essentially in all 3 lanes at this point. Her car, the majority of her car was in lane number 2, but the rear of her car was still sticking into lane number 1. I proceeded around the rear of her vehicle, opposite of her path to travel. There was about at least half the lane exposed there, and I continued on. The next thing I know, both my mirrors are filled with lights, and I look at my mirrors and I see a vehicle coming up about twice my speed, straddling the center line. So this vehicle had now gone in, come back into the number 1 lane and number 2 lane, and she went by me while swerving to the left slightly, and I was between the curb and the side of her car.
So she passed you?
No, she buzzed me. She went by me fast and in my lane.
I understand that. Shh, listen to what I'm saying, sir.
Yes.
You say she buzzed you.
Correct.
After she's shown her lights in your mirror.
Correct.
You say she passed you.
That is correct.
That's
yes.
all I want you to
yes.
say. You say buzzed, I say
yes.
passed. She passed
She
you.
went past my vehicle.
Right.
And she went by at such a high rate of speed, I actually felt the wind of her car through my armored pants. We came to a stop. Actually, she was in the number 2 lane as she described. I was still in the number 1 lane. Her vehicle was very close to the center line. I don't think it was crossing over the line into the number 1 lane, but she was very close to me. And I was lined up with her rear quarter panel. I was yelling at her because I had no idea why she had just done this to me, why she had just nearly
Maybe she was a nut.
Maybe she was.
And what do you do when you come in contact with a nut and you're on a motorcycle and they're in a car?
Well, Your Honor,
what is the smart thing to do?
The smart thing to do would be just to proceed in the opposite direction.
That's right.
That's right.
But
That's
you
right.
opted not to do that. You opted to tell her how dumb she was.
Well,
by getting her attention.
That is true.
By kicking her car.
Yes, Your Honor. Yes, Your Honor. So I knocked on her car once.
No, I'm not finished with my...
Okay, I'm sorry. As you would say, I acted badly.
Yes, you did.
And
perfect. Just to say, I have an acknowledgement that you acted badly.
I am willing to fess up in anything I've done in this situation. So
go ahead.
So at this point, I knocked on the car once with the side of my boot.
No. Listen, I want you to use the word that I'm going to use.
Kick. I kicked her car once with my boot.
You know he's a fast learner.
Yes.
Right?
I kicked her car once with the side of my boot. This is the boot here.
Right, now that we've used the boot, could you put the boot on the floor, please?
Yes. I brought the other one in case you want them. So at this point, her door flew open. She came running up to my right-hand side, and I was still in the motorcycle. It's a 600-pound motorcycle. The motorcycle was in gear. Both hands were on the handlebar and the kickstand was in the up position. And at this point, the traffic was just beginning to proceed, starting with the number 3 lane and starting to work its way over.
Okay.
So
the lanes weren't going anywhere because her car was stopped.
That's correct.
Go ahead.
Yes. So she comes flying out of her car. She says, "Why the F did you kick my car?" And I said, "Why the F did you try to kill me? What are you trying to do? You're trying to kill me." And she ran through the list of names, a-hole, et cetera, and I was sitting there. She was in an absolute rage. At this point, traffic was continuing to move. Cars were honking behind us. And I looked at her and I said, "Get back in your car, you fat bee."
Go ahead.
She looked at me, she started shaking, and
quiet.
and she shoved me as hard as she could from my right-hand side. Well, once she shoved me, the motorcycle went over, and at this point, I had to take my hand off the clutch, and that's why the motorcycle started spinning around in circles. I luckily had landed on my feet, and I said, I'm calling the cops. I went over and got her license plate number even before I shut off the motorcycle, and went back, shut off the motorcycle. At this point, she proceeded to the number 3 lane, got onto the freeway northbound. I called the police, and I told them what direction she was proceeding, and they went and sent a separate police car and went and chased her down and brought her back to the scene.
That's not correct.
Well, where were you stopped?
I went to the hospital, which is straight ahead. I did not get on 101 north or south.
So you went to the hospital?
Correct.
Go ahead.
I called Twin City Police Department, and they told me there were policemen on site to go ahead and return to the incident.
Okay, so you came back by yourself? Or
correct.
You came back by yourself?
She came back following a police car.
That is not correct.
Well, it is correct.
No, it is not correct.
She came back following the police car, otherwise she wouldn't even known where we were stopped.
I know exactly where the incident was.
Don't speak to him.
In talking to... I'm sorry.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You kicked her car. You didn't knock her with your tongue. You kicked her with your boot.
I'll demonstrate to you that I don't have the ability of doing that with this boot.
And how are you going to demonstrate that to me, sir?
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Cindy Sullivan claims fellow motorist Nico Van Prague kicked a dent into the side of her car.
I'd like to see the damage done to your motorcycle.
These are the pictures of the damage, and this is the written estimate. Those pictures were taken the day after. As you'll see from the pictures, the corner of the side bag is ground flat, which confirms the fact that the motorcycle was in gear when it fell over. I also have an affidavit from the BMW dealer who inspected it.
Not necessary.
Okay.
Okay, now let me see the damage caused when Mr. Van Prague kicked your car, which you did, sir. Is that right?
This is the car.
Is that right?
I knocked her in her car once, yes.
You kicked her car. You didn't knock her with your tongue, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
You kicked her with your boot.
Yes, Your Honor.
And you kicked her, and you were angry.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, so you didn't tap her, you kicked it, and you caused a little dimple in her car.
I'll demonstrate to you that I don't have the ability of doing that with this boot or my ability of sitting on the motorcycle.
And how are you going to demonstrate that to me, sir?
Well, I have the boot here, and I also have photographs of me on the motorcycle with a kicking action. It's a very high motorcycle. It's 600 pounds. It has a 33-inch seat height, and I'm only 5'11", so I'm actually on my tippy toes when I'm sitting on the motorcycle. I have a very limited range of motion when I'm sitting on the motorcycle.
Unless you're really angry.
Well, even if I'm angry, Your Honor.
Can I see a picture of the whole car?
I will show you these pictures.
I'm sorry, I do not have one.
Well, where is this ding in your car?
I have estimates here, but it's in the rear driver's side of the vehicle.
Your Honor, that's a BMW 7 Series. It's very thick sheet metal. If I could do that with any boot, I would at least have to be off the motorcycle. It's also above the bumper in an inset place, and there's no damage to the tail light or the surrounding bumper. So it would be a very difficult angle of attack to be able to get into
Well, let me ask
area.
you this question, sir. Why would you think that Ms. Sullivan would go and file a supplementary report the next day?
I think to defend herself, because it was so clear that she had assaulted me, and it was so clear that she had caused damage to my motorcycle that I thought she...
That's a reasonable explanation. Eventually, these charges were dismissed. Is that right?
Correct.
Good. Were you notified of the dismissal of these battery charges, sir?
I had a discussion with the second DA who took over the case about 2 weeks prior to the trial, and he said that he would like to discuss the evidence with me. He felt that it should be best handled in small claims court.
Okay.
And at that time, I had explained to him that I would rather be done with the issue than take it to court again. But I was disappointed in their decision.
Okay. Felt as if it wasn't worth the trouble of going to trial.
Correct.
Okay. I have to establish to my satisfaction, based on common sense, what happened that day. And what happened that day was Mr. Van Prague was in a hurry, and he wanted to get around you, which he did. And that irritated you because he probably went around, to your senses, too fast. Instead of letting it rest, which would have avoided any and all confrontation, you decided to, at night, blind him with your lights by flashing your high beams. Unnecessary. Then Mr. Von Prague did something that was more stupid than your flashing your lights at him. He thought that you were trying to hurt him, and he didn't know what kind of a nut you were. So instead of just letting it rest and proceeding on his way, where were you going, Mr. Von Prague?
Home.
Home.
From work.
He decided to kick your car. Very stupid. Now, the next stupid thing that happened was you, not knowing what kind of a nut Mr. Von Prague is, decide to get out of your car and confront him by saying, "What the blank did you do to my car?" So you knew what happened because you got out and said to him, "What the blank are you doing?" And that car's all around you. He responded, "And what the blank are you doing trying to kill me?" And as my father's joke would go, the fight was on. But then, Miss Sullivant, you did something that you're not permitted to do. You put your hands on him, and I find that you were not defending yourself. I find that you were furious, and in a fit of anger, you pushed him off his motorcycle and caused about $660 worth of damage to his motorcycle. That's what you did.
Not in anger.
Yes, it was. It was in anger because you got out of the car angry. You were angry enough at him to put your brights on when he passed you instead of letting it rest. You were that angry. Instead of just letting it rest, you flashed your brights on him. I mean, I've been driving a car for more years than you're old, and I'm telling you, the only time you do that is when you are really PO'd. And if that's not the only time you do it, then you're a very bad driver. In any event, you're not getting a nickel to fix the ding in your car. All I'm doing, sir, is taking out what I consider the $60 that it probably will take to fix the ding in her car from the $660 that you want to fix your motorcycle. And since you behaved equally as badly that day, would you say that that's true, sir? Because you put your foot on her car in anger, giving you a judgment on your counterclaim for $600. That's all. Step back.
Parties are excused.
Chiropractor Dr. Richard Perry is suing nursing assistant Felissa Carlton for the cost to fix his Jeep Cherokee and for pain and suffering due to a car accident. Felissa says the accident was Richard's fault.
Yeah, well. Yeah, this is case number 333 on the calendar, the matter of Perry versus Carlton. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated, sir.
Mr. Perry, Miss Carlton, according to you, caused an accident.
That's correct, Your Honor.
Caused an accident causing damage to your car and injury to you.
That's correct, Your Honor.
Miss Carlton says that there was a merge, you wouldn't let her in, and once she got in, you accelerated. So the accident was your fault. You really weren't injured at all. You just behaved very badly. So you want to tell me first when this happened?
This occurred on July 26th of 2004, Your Honor.
That's your diagram. I'd like you to show me your car.
My car would be back here, Your Honor.
The red.
The defendant would be the blue car here.
So she was merging in behind a truck and in front of you.
That's correct, Your Honor.
Tell me what happened.
Well, we were proceeding westbound on Main Street, and this lane where you see the defendant is actually not a lane. It is a lane that has been merged into a right turn lane. What happened was she came from about 4 cars back. She decided to come up.
4 cars back, so she was behind
the
purple car.
She was actually in the left-hand lane about 4 cars back.
And how do you know that?
I saw her in my right rear view mirror.
So she came out of that lane, the same lane that you were in?
That's correct, Your Honor. Came down this center lane, which is blocked off because of construction, ran over this cone here, actually, behind this truck. We were moving at approximately 15 to 20 miles an hour. She then cut in very sharply behind the truck right in front of me, which was only about 5 feet distance. At that point in time, I had no options. I didn't have any reaction time. I ran over her rear end, which caused my right front end to go up over her rear end, causing my car to tilt to the left and then bounce back down.
What kind of car were you driving?
I'm driving a Jeep Cherokee, Your Honor.
And Miss Carlton?
Miss Carlton was driving a little Echo, Toyota Echo.
So your car actually went up on top of hers?
It actually went up on her wheel and came back down, Your Honor.
The whole back of the car?
No,
or
on her left rear quarter panel, where her tire is. It actually went up over it. There were scuff marks on her left rear quarter panel from my tire.
So the side?
Yes.
Of her car?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
At that point, I was thrown over to the side. When the car came back, I jammed my head on the door jamb. At that point, I honked and started honking vigorously. She stuck her hand out the window and waved at me and took off.
Where did she take off?
She took off into this left-hand lane, which proceeded left. At that point, there's an overpass at that point that goes over the freeway. On the other side of the overpass, there's a baker's restaurant. In that restaurant, she finally pulled into the restaurant. I pulled in, blocked her from turning out towards the left to get back on another street. And at that point, she stopped, exited her car, very profoundly said, "What are you doing?" I signaled, "What the are you doing?" And at that point, I asked her for her driver's license, her registration, and proof of insurance. She said, "I'm not giving you anything." At that point, she took a young child, it appeared to be a young male, out of the back seat of the car.
Is that what she said? "I'm not giving you anything"?
"I'm not giving you anything." And she took this young male, which had not been seat belted in. There was no car seat in that car. She
How
took
old
him
was
into
the child?
About 4 or 5 years old, Your Honor.
Okay.
She took him into the restaurant, was in there for about 10 minutes. In the meantime, I'm calling the police, reporting what was going on. She comes back out of the restaurant with food and the child. About 10 minutes later, a gentleman shows up, identifies himself as her husband, and proceeds to start cussing at me and yelling at me, and tells me that he's going to kick my and take care of me. And at that point in time, I walked away from them, again calling the police, telling them that this had escalated into an adversary situation and I needed help. We waited for about another 10 to 15 minutes. He talked with the defendant got in her car, and they drove away.
And you got there?
The only thing I was able to get was the license plate off of her car.
So that's how you tracked it down?
I attempted to track it through the DMV, who, through multiple things, they decide you can't do that. They would notify her to notify me, which she had already decided not to give me that information.
Now, according to your complaint, sir, you were injured. I'd like you to tell me how you were injured.
I was having a lot of neck pain. I was having severe headaches. I went to see Dr. Recognized that this was a whiplash injury.
Listen to me. What kind of work do you do, sir?
I'm a chiropractor, Your Honor.
Okay, and who's Dr.?
Dr. is a chiropractor.
A colleague of yours?
Yes.
Okay. How many days were you out of work, sir, after the 26th?
I was not out of work, Your Honor.
Good. How much damage did you have done to your car?
About $100 worth of damage.
Do you have
I have
receipt?
the estimates of the damages to my car, Your Honor.
Okay.
Exhibit 3.
Okay. May I see it, please?
Exhibit 3.
Exhibit 3. So this whole thing was $62.31. That was the damage to your car?
The end caps on my bumper and the stabilizer, Your Honor, yes.
Is there anything else other than Exhibit 3?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. You work 5 days a week, sir?
I work 6 days a week, Your Honor.
Okay. And you didn't miss any work?
I didn't miss any work, but I did
Good.
work in pain.
I'm sure your doctor friend was able to help you.
Yes. Yes, very definitely.
Good.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Did you ask the owner of the restaurant if you could use the phone to call the police?
No.
And if somebody is attacking you, you do that, right?
Right. And I did.
And you didn't. You got hamburger and fries.
No, I didn't.
And later today,
How much was the bail?
$550. I said, can you come and pay it, and I'll pay you at least half of it that day.
You just told me that you had the money. All you had to do
I
was
had
be
half
able
of
to.
the money.
I'm speaking.
Sorry.
Remember what I said to you before? If you tell the truth, you don't have to have a good memory.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Dr. Richard Perry claims he was injured due to a car accident caused by Felissa Carlton. Felissa says Richard is a hothead.
All right, Miss Carlton, I want you to tell me what happened, madam.
I proceeded to merge onto the left lane, and I looked over my shoulder. There was plenty of room, so I decided to keep going. And as I was proceeding, I heard an acceleration, and then I felt a slight bump. It didn't seem bad, so that's why I was like, because I was trying to say, it's okay, don't worry about it. But he honked, and he was raging, and so I didn't pull over right away until I got into Baker's, because there was no way I could pull over. We were going over the pass. So when I pulled over, I'm sorry, but he's the one who asked, what the F do you think you're doing? I tried to talk to him. I tried to calm him down. I said, my kids are in the car. And he says, I don't give an F. Who's in the car with you?
and I couldn't calm him down. I couldn't talk to him. I couldn't give him any information. He
Did he
wouldn't
ask
allow
you
me.
for your license, registration, and insurance?
No, ma'am.
He did not?
No.
That would be odd.
I couldn't talk to him.
No. Miss Carlton, I don't believe that.
I'm sorry.
I don't believe that. All right, sir. You want to step up?
Sure.
Your wife called you and said she had been in an accident?
Yes, Your Honor.
Were those her exact words?
Well, what happened when she called me, she told me that she was just in an accident, and while she's talking to me, I heard the plaintiff cussing in the background, yelling at my wife, and I tried to get her, you know, explain to me what happened, and she's trying to tell him to calm down, and so she could talk to me. And she said he's acting like a child. He won't exchange information. And you know, I have the kids with me, so I immediately left work and I went to see what was going on.
So why didn't you give him a license, registration, and insurance?
I asked him. I said, "Well, is there anything you'd like to tell me that you were telling my wife?" And he said, "Yeah." He said, "You're an idiot." Well, at that point, I told him in not so many nice
Why didn't you just give him your license, registration, and insurance?
Because my wife had told me she had already tried that, and he was not cooperating.
Well, why didn't you try it, sir?
Well, at that point, I was there to take care of my wife who was being attacked by an angry man.
He wasn't attacking her when you got there, was he?
He was on the phone when I heard him.
He was not attacking her when you got there, was he?
That's right. No, he was not.
And she had already been in the restaurant with your son.
Right.
Is that right? Gotten food, right?
Yes.
And when you went into the restaurant and you got the food, did you ask the owner of the restaurant if you could use the phone to call the police?
No.
And if somebody is attacking you, if somebody is acting like a lunatic, you do that, right? You say, you call the police, you say, somebody is out there, I'm afraid, right?
Right. And I did.
And you didn't. You got hamburger and fries.
No, I didn't.
Now, you came outside before your husband arrived, correct?
Right.
Right. So if you're really afraid of somebody, if they're behaving like a lunatic, you stay inside the restaurant until either the police arrived, who you didn't call, or your husband arrives. That's just common sense. So I don't believe that you were frightened.
Okay.
I also think, Mr. Perry, that you overreacted. I don't think you make a big deal about something if you have a fender bender. You had a fender bender that cost you $62.31, not $5,000.
The medical expenses are what cost the most. There's about $4,000 in medical expenses, Your Honor.
As far as I'm concerned, Dr. Perry, if you are in so much pain that you have $4,000 worth of medical expenses, you miss 1 day of work.
Unfortunately,
Dr. Perry,
Your Honor,
you know where I'm going
my
with you?
patients don't quite get to that point.
Listen, Dr. Perry, it's not a question of your patients not getting to that point. If you have $4,000 worth of medical expenses, you can't work, at least for 1 day. So I think that your medical expenses and your pain and suffering are a little bit of who shot John. But you are entitled to the amount of money to have your car fixed. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $62.31. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I wasn't debilitated to the fact that I could not work.
If he's injured, he's injured.
It was debilitation to the fact that I was suffering pain.
I can't say I don't have his body.
I think he got what he deserved.
She's Judge Judy. She did her job.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Vargo versus Beck. Step forward, please.
Plaintiffs Helga Vargo and her ex-husband, Robert, are suing their former friend, 25-year-old nursing assistant Billy Joe Beck, for the cost of bail when Billy Joe was arrested for outstanding warrants.
Miss Vargo, who's this?
This is my ex-husband.
And this used to be a friend of yours, I gather.
Yes.
And according to your complaint, she called you hysterical one day, that she had been arrested and she needed you to help her out with some bail money.
Yes.
You did, and she didn't pay you back.
Right.
And Miss Beck says, well, she paid you back some and the rest was a gift. That's your defense.
Right.
What were you arrested for, Miss Beck?
I went to traffic court and I had to pay fines, and I paid partial, and I was supposed to pay the rest back, but I thought I had paid it all off, and I didn't know I got a letter in the mail at my grandmother's house. She had thrown it away, so I never knew that I had a remaining amount, so they put a warrant on my driver's license, and that's why I ended up in jail.
When were you summoned and told to pay fines? In what year?
It was back in 2002.
For what?
Traffic violations.
What kind of...
Speeding.
Speeding. How many times were you caught speeding?
Twice.
Okay, and how much were the fines that the judge imposed?
Total, it came to $550,
How much of the $550 did you pay?
$350 before I moved.
So you knew you had $200 left to pay?
Yeah, I think I did. Yes, I did.
See how easy it is?
Yeah.
There's an old adage. Do you have parents, grandparents?
Yeah.
They'll tell you something, and it's a very good thing to live by. If you tell the truth, you don't have to have a good memory.
Right.
Now, did you expect the court in Ohio to send you a second or third invitation to pay the other $200?
I was supposed to get another letter to appear back in court, and I never got it. To pay back the rest, because I was...
So you expected another invitation.
Right.
You expected
I
them
was supposed to get another
re-invite you to come in.
I guess you could say that.
Good. So now you're arrested, and you were stopped for something, I assume, which is how they...
No, I was across the street where my nursing home is, a convenience store, and the cop had pulled in, ran my plate, and when I was coming back, he pulled us over in the parking lot.
Why would a cop just run your plate?
I asked him that.
And he said,
being 2 o'clock in the morning, normally people that are at a convenience store are there to rob them. I'm like, I'm in my scrubs. I'm not going to rob anybody. You've seen me come back to work. And he's like, that don't make a difference.
So he ran your plate and found that there was a warrant for you.
Correct.
How much was the bail?
Total with the warrant fee and everything, it came back to $550.
So you called Miss Vargo?
Right, because they wouldn't let me leave to go get the money to pay them.
Sounds right to me. So that suggests to me that if they allowed you to leave, you had the money.
Right.
Is that what you're telling me?
I had the means to go get it, but they wouldn't let me leave to go get it, to bring it back.
What kind of means did you have, Miss Beck, to go get it?
Check cashing.
So you could have gotten that quickly?
Yeah.
Good. So then you called Miss Vargo, and you must have said to her...
I asked her, I said, they're not going to let me leave until I pay this off. I said, can you come and pay it, and I'll pay you at least half of it that day. I actually paid her the next day. And I said, I'm not going to be able to pay you the rest because the money that I'm getting it from is a check cashing place, so I won't be able to pay you back the rest. And she said that was fine.
You just told me that you had the money. All you had to do was be able to...
I'm
speaking.
Sorry.
Remember what I said to you before? If you tell the truth, you don't have to have a good memory. You just told me you had the money to pay the $550, but they wouldn't let you leave.
Right.
Then you called her and you told her a lie. You said, I'll be able to only pay you half.
I wouldn't have been to pay the court all of it. I would have been able to pay them half that day, and then...
They don't want half. They don't trust you.
I know. That's why I couldn't pay it.
All right. Now that I've tortured her sufficiently to satisfy me, Miss Vargo, you allowed her to write out this $550 on a credit card, and the credit card, unfortunately, belonged to your ex-husband.
To both of us. It was a joint account.
But he started to get the bills.
Right.
Which made you very unhappy.
Yes.
You have a copy of the bill?
Yes, I do.
Let me see.
It's a copy of the bill and what it's now accrued to with interest and late charges.
Okay. Now, do you have a check? You say you gave her some money?
Right.
Can I see the check where you gave her some money?
I have the whole thing from the check cashing place.
She give you a check for $300?
No. I gave her cash, because they cashed the check right there in the check cashing office.
When did you give her cash?
The next day, because I couldn't get it that day because the place had already closed, so that next day I went and got it, and I gave it to her as soon as her daughter came home from school. I gave her $300 on the first, and then 2 weeks later I gave her $50.
You have a copy of that money?
No, because that was an extra $50 from my paycheck.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think I'd have to get a receipt from her, but I guess I should have.
All right. Did you get the bill, sir, right away from...
No, I knew nothing of this until September. This happened in March. I just found out about it in September. And that's
How
when
did you find out about it?
My ex-wife finally told me. Finally.
She got the $300. I don't know about the 50, but I know she got the 300 that she didn't tell you about.
Okay.
She figured she was going to stiff you, or that maybe it would just go away. But she got the $300. Still have a balance of $352 that's left, which, Miss Beck, you say was a gift. Is that right?
Yes, because I told
Well,
her...
explain to me why Miss Vargo would make a gift to you of the rest of your bail.
I asked her from the beginning, I said, I'd be able to pay you half, but the rest I'm not going to be able to come up with, because you know I don't make that much money, because she was working with me at the time. She said, that's fine. Then she started, like, a month later, she got fired from our work, and that's when she started calling me and bugging me for the money.
You know, it's so difficult when both people are not telling me the truth to have to sort out who's the biggest liar. It's really so hard to figure out who's the biggest liar is. The only one I know who isn't lying is him. Miss Beck, there isn't a reason for Miss Vargo to make you a gift of this money. You have a history, based upon your own statements, of trying to squirrel out of your responsibility. You tried to do it with the court. You tried to do it with her. In any event, I believe that you gave her back $300. You still owe $352. Judgment for the plaintiff. That's all. Goodbye.
अस्सलामुअलैकुम दोस्तों, ये देख सकते हो एक सब्ज़ी है और इसकी अभी चुनाई हो रही है। ये कौन सी सब्ज़ी है आप बता सकते हो? ये बहुत प्यारी सब्ज़ी है, देखो अभी। देखते जाओ ये कौन सी सब्ज़ी है, बता सकते हो आप? सब्ज़ी बहुत अच्छी है और मेहनत इसका बहुत ज़्यादा है। बहुत ज़्यादा मेहनत से ये तैयार हो रहा है। अभी हम इसको तोड़ रहे हैं। देखो अभी ये देख सकते हो आप, देखते जाना। अभी इसका बहुत ज़्यादा मेहनत से ये तैयार हो रहा है और अच्छी सब्ज़ी है ये, बहुत ज़बरदस्त। देखिए अभी हम इसको तोड़ रहे हैं। इसका बहुत ज़्यादा मेहनत है, तब जाके ये तैयार होता है। देख सकते हो आप कितनी मज़ेदार सब्ज़ी है और कितनी खूबसूरत है। ये देखें, देखते जाएं अभी। बहुत अच्छा, बहुत खूबसूरत है। अभी आप देख सकते हैं। इसको क्या कहते हैं आपकी ज़ुबान में, देख के बताना।